kind of get everything going. I think Ryan's probably already filming, if I had to guess. Yeah.
Are we going?
Yep, we're a minute in.
Oh,
you saw me almost take my shirt off. We don't have to have the ice going in there part, but
yeah, we do.
No, we gotta let the people know we use round cubes.
yeah,
Oh, wait.
right. Super.
It's not a cube if it's round though.
Yeah.
Oh, don't they just call it a sphere then? An ice sphere.
Ice sphere.
There you
Ice
go.
sphere.
There you go.
I have never associated the fact that it's called an ice cube as actually being a cube. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever associated like, oh yeah,
Me
they're
either.
made-
I definitely said that, and I was like, "Damn, I'm a genius."
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's ever realized that before.
even the person who named it was just like, oh shit.
Hey, we're live, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Kevin, what did you say that looked like earlier?
A genie bottle.
Just kidding, guys. You don't need to know.
Alfonso said a bong, which I don't know what they look like. How do you know what they look like?
I don't know either. Honestly, just made an assumption. Don't you own one?
No, absolutely not. No, I don't.
Alfonso trying to call me out, like not even 2 minutes in.
Sorry.
All right, what are we drinking?
We're drinking some Willet pot still. Very unique looking bottle.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Cracking it open too.
Nice.
We'll find something to cut this so I don't have to take off the whole ribbon part. I feel like that adds to the aesthetic.
Yeah, even when I do, even if it has a ribbon, I'll just like kind of crack it, like rip it.
This one's kind of thick though.
Mm.
Oh, I got it.
Nope, there we go.
Yep.
Where did you get that one from?
This one came from, this was earlier this year, came from Byron's. I've really become super loyal to the liquor store just down the street because it's owned by a guy that is apparently good friends with a lot of the customer or a handful of our customers and just runs a phenomenal business. Like I was saying this on the last podcast, but you walk in the store and he remembers who you are, what you like. He points you in the right direction. He'll like put stuff and hide stuff like in the back for you. And if you go in on like a Friday when it's really busy, he'll do that for every single person that walks in the door. He'll know him by name.
Nice.
So obviously we appreciate good customer service and this guy kills it. So my business has pretty much exclusively gone to him.
Yeah.
So this is probably one of the last things I got before I started doing that. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, kind of talking, that we're kind of getting started here on the podcast. I want to introduce Alfonso Lopez of first and foremost of Let's Work Apparel. So he owns, designs, develops everything there is to be with Let's Work. He is also, I'm grabbing my whiskey. He is also the right-hand man right now over at Pride Foods, where they're, when it comes to traveling, doing events, all that kind of stuff. I know he runs a bunch of order or just packing boxes in the warehouse. This is the man. This is the man right here. So,
Hello.
yeah.
Welcome. Nice to meet everyone.
Yeah. For anybody who doesn't know, this is, Alfonso worked for Triad and Define for how many years? How long were you around the company?
A little over 2.5, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
yeah, and it was over 2.
Yeah. I was getting close to 3.
Yeah.
Was the third person we hired for a long time, was one of 3 people, including myself, was there in very, very early days. So has, I'm sure, a lot of stories compared to the stories we have now are quite a bit different. So,
I'd say so. Well, guys, let's do a cheers and we'll get officially going. So get your 7-Up in here.
Oh, hold on. I got to crack it open.
Crack it for the.
give it a nice.
Oh, wait. That wasn't close enough.
Ooh.
That's nice.
That actually sounded pretty good, didn't
Yeah,
it?
that was nice. All right, guys. Let's check this wallet out. Well, I like that.
I tried it at a wedding recently. They had it, and I was like, why not? I'll try it. And
Yeah.
I had drank a lot before that, so I was like, I hope it was actually good.
Yeah, I don't know. The bottle's cool enough, though. It's a good shelf bottle.
I agree.
No matter what.
I agree. Got a little, I feel like a little bit of a vanilla note to it.
Yeah, I don't know. Tastes like alcohol. I'm just kidding. No, I'll get there. I'll let some water melt a little bit, and then I can typically taste it a little bit more on what what the kind of notes are. But yeah, so welcome to episode 3 of the Unsuccessful Entrepreneur podcast. I still don't know how to spell that word, but we are making our way. So anybody
I definitely don't either.
Yeah. We have a podcast named after it, and Ryan's had to type it so much because of all the social media stuff. They'll be like, Ryan, how do you spell entrepreneur? And then he'll just spout it off. And this is where I've got the sign right here now. So make sure that
Shout out to that spell check.
yeah, right.
Comes in clutch.
Ryan, is this correct?
I hope so.
Checks out.
Yeah, nice. This is
Thank goodness.
yeah. When I was made a couple social media accounts and stuff, just like whether it was YouTube, I think we claimed an Instagram. We haven't done anything with the Instagram yet, but there was a lot of pressure whenever I was actually typing the name in of like, oh my goodness, am I spelling this right? Like I was like, I would Google unsuccessful entrepreneur, let it correct me, and then highlight all of that and then put it in the name box. Just like, cool. Google trusts this, then I'm gonna go for it.
I've trusted the Instagram hashtag. I think I've done it enough times, and that there might be a secondary version that's spelled wrong that I'm accidentally using. I hope not.
That'd be super fun.
I'm gonna go check his post now.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna go check my post.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy though? That shows though that like you don't need to necessarily know how to like spell it
To be an entrepreneur?
Yeah,
Yeah, true.
Amen.
dude.
Yeah, who needs to know how to spell?
Exactly.
That was a topic of the first episode for sure, was like, if us two schmucks can make this work, then like I think anybody can do it. I think if you have enough will, I think more than anything, I think it's probably a good starting spot for us as we kind of get going. But like, that's one of the things, first and foremost, I'm going to paint a couple compliments to you, Alfonso. First being that no one in the history of my time of ever knowing you has ever had even a slightly negative thing to say about you. You might be one of the nicest, like most genuine people I know. And man, I can tell you, at least for myself, but I'm sure Kevin agrees too, of like, man, we're super stoked to have you be our first guest. We're really honored. You're obviously a good friend of ours, but somebody who's worked for the company, somebody who has, good insight to that, but then also has gone out on his own to see, his own version of success, which I know you probably don't feel successful yet, but I view you as successful as a person and an entrepreneur. So, quick shout out to you, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
You guys, when I listened to the last one, you guys complimented me so much. I was like, geez.
Yeah.
So
You
cool.
called us and we're like, I'd love to be on there.
I was like, wow. Yeah. I mean, why do you think I'm here? I was like, you guys talk about me so much. Let me just.
Yeah. You gave the check to Alyssa, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
It was like $1,600, wasn't it?
Oh,
That's a friend discount too. So
yeah.
don't tell. Yeah, we'll edit that part out.
Oh God.
So anybody listening, that's the going rate right now.
You got to do what you do.
Yeah.
Promotion matters.
No, I think that's a big part about what drives your brand, man, is how positive a mindset that you have and how positive a person that you are. Is people attached to that. I think more than anything, man, is people just love to support what you're all about, which has been really cool to watch, man. That's at least, maybe I have a different perspective because a lot of people that I talk to that wear a lot of the Let's Work apparel end up have been customers with us for a while, and they got to know you in the store and got to meet you in person and really get to know you. And that's I think the biggest reason that we see customers want to support the brand is how much they like you and how much they like your attitude.
No, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool, and then honestly, just being here as well is pretty cool because it's always nice to just kind of sit back and like reminisce and like talk about things that we've been through in the journey and like where we are all now.
Oh, that's one of the things that we talk about a lot is just like we sit and talk about like, oh, you remember sitting in the back of S2, or like you remember when the store was so busy that like you'd catch a nap on shift on accident.
No, I remember when we used to play Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
Dude,
The 64.
Dude, that was so fun though, man. Dude, that was a time.
Take me back. Who needs the money?
But it's weird though, because like even coming to Kevin's house and like being in his office, it's just really cool because like I remember when there was no customers. Yeah. Like I was part of like that small time where it was kind of like, I was thinking I'm just gonna, hang out in the back. And
it was like Kevin and I living in Kevin, myself, Alyssa,
Dude,
Destiny.
Yes.
There was
when you worked at the store, we were still very much trying to keep all our expenses low enough that it was Thomas and I living in a house with Alyssa and another roommate. So it was 4 people and at
Yeah.
one point 5 dogs in a 3-bedroom house.
Yeah.
And here we are. Now we get an office.
And
We
well,
had
then, even then they had like a significant other as well at times, and it was like, oh, there's like 5 of us, at any given time
We
here.
had a lot of pizza parties at that house.
Yeah, some good pizza
we had
parties.
my 21st. Remember, we got Taco Bell that night.
Yeah.
and I was hammered on the couch.
I think we all peed in the parking lot that night.
Yeah, we definitely did.
Way to go, team.
Almost fell off at the Top Golf. Remember?
You did, yeah. I
Yeah.
think you tried to Happy Gilmore it.
Yeah.
No,
You almost happy
You're like,
Gilmore'd
this kid's
yourself
done.
out.
See, I was cool because we went somewhere before Top Golf, and then we went to Top Golf, and Thomas was like, "You're taking a shot," and dude, I
Doesn't
took a
sound
shot.
like me.
Well, actually, I gotta say this: we went out on a Saturday, and I went out on the Friday prior and got hammered.
Attaboy.
So then I worked an entire shift that Saturday, got hammered Saturday night, and then worked Sunday.
Yeah. And now
And-
you're drinking 7-Up because you haven't had a drink since.
Yeah, literally, I'm still recovering.
hindsight, we were pretty big assholes to schedule you on those 2
I
days.
know.
Yeah.
I mean, I was also the new guy, so it's just kind of like paying my dues.
Yeah, dude, I mean, we talk about this as if like it's much different now. Like I literally worked the day after my 30th birthday. Like we all
That's
went out
true.
and did like a big party, and it was like, oh well, it's like it's my Sunday to work, so it's my Sunday to work.
I feel like that's part of the experience of working at Triad is you got to have some shifts just super hungover.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's one that
It's
I
great
had.
content for the look at Ryan. Ryan has a point. He has his hand raised.
I don't know about this life.
You don't want to.
I'm
It's
pretty-
not fun.
I showed up for a shift one time. I think it was Ryan and I think Kaylin. And there was a couple. The first customers that I took were like a minute into the store being open, and it just got so busy. I remember even telling the other 2 people with Ryan and Kaylin, I was like, hey, I don't feel good. Can you guys take first stings? And then within 1 minute of the store being open, it was just packed. I was like, okay.
Yeah. After
Gotta-
my 21st, Angie Bowers came in. She was like, "How are you alive?" And I said, "I'm not." 100%.
Time out. You said we went somewhere before this. Could this possibly be when we had the entire restaurant at Fuzzy Taco singing you happy birthday?
Yes.
That is great.
You remember that? Because there was a lot of Coda people there.
Yeah.
We started singing you happy birthday, and then the entire restaurant
It
started
was-
singing you happy birthday.
We were a big enough group. Yeah, we had maybe, a dozen people out for Alfonso's birthday. So we started singing. And then there was a Coda girls night. So they
Yeah.
naturally joined in. So that's like 30 people right there. And then at that point in time, it's half the restaurant. So the rest of the restaurant just
Yeah.
joined in to sing Alfonso. I still have a video of that.
Dude, that was a good time.
Yeah.
That was
Kevin, can you
fun.
find that on your phone?
I can.
Yeah, real quick.
Yeah, let me scroll back like 4 years.
Yeah, that
Jeez.
would be a while.
Yeah.
I was when I turned 21 and 24 now.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Dude, tell me about it.
I feel like I've lived like 9 lives.
Mm.
But
That's all right though.
when I was working that shift, this was after I think the night at Social Capital when we were playing the we got a drink every time the other person drinks.
Yeah.
I don't know how to name that game, but
It's
that's
a pretty
about the
solid
rules.
game. So essentially, when one person goes to the bar, like it's Kevin and I are typically the ones playing it, and it's like if I go to the bar, I order 2 drinks, one for me, one for him. If he goes to the bar, he orders 2 drinks, one for him, one for me. No matter where the other person is along the lines of things, like if one person's drinking faster than the other, like you've just got multiple drinks in your hand, and like time to catch up, cowboy. Yeah, that was. Gosh, this is not something to be bragging about, but I think between the 2 of us, we were just drinking Casamigos tequila on the rocks, and I think we ordered like 27 of them between the 2 of us.
Jesus,
Yeah.
dude. That's a lot.
Yeah,
That was the first night I met Laurel.
yeah, she came pick me up because I was not going anywhere in a hurry.
I think I was a perfect gentleman.
It's like your boss knows how to party. He really does.
This is Kevin. He owns a company.
Mm.
Are you
He's
sure?
hammered.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
But yeah, the next morning it was like 11 o'clock a.m. or probably 11:01, and I'm taking this couple, and I'm like actively thinking as I'm helping them out, I'm like, gosh, I really hope I don't projectile vomit right now.
Yeah, I remember you calling me. We were talking on the phone a little bit later that day, and you're like, my first customer. I legitimately was like very worried. I was like 70-30 that I was going to puke on them. I was like,
Was this recent?
No, a couple years ago.
Yeah,
Oh.
year and a half
Yeah.
ago.
This was like a year ago at most.
Yeah, I would say this was probably a little bit more because Laurel and I have been dating for over a year for sure. So yeah, probably about a year and a couple months at most. Yeah.
I've never seen you down like that.
This
I
was
guess.
3 days ago, actually.
Hey, it happens, man.
And here we are.
Yeah.
Right.
More whiskey.
But kind of back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier. I think one of the cool things about, at least for me, kind of what Kevin, piggybacking a little bit of what Kevin was talking about earlier, is like, I don't know if I should, and maybe this is just my personality when it comes to certain things, but I have a sense of pride whenever I see somebody wearing a Let's Work shirt or like Let's Work apparel. Like, it makes me feel good. Like I have anything to do with it, which I clearly do not, but it really does. Like, I see it and I feel proud. Like, oh man, like, and I see so many people, and I love it when it's people that I have never met, or like they're the first time in the store. I see them at Crest or something, and it's like, oh dude, it's cool.
I'll see some people with like that are like more influential in the community, and I don't know that like how much they know you, and I'll see them posting it and I'm like, oh hell yeah.
Yeah, I will say, one, whenever people buy it that I don't know, it's like really weird. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
But two, whenever I see a Triad t-shirt too, I'm definitely the same way.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I get
dang,
it.
I feel like we're all part of like a
Well,
clan.
you helped build Triad though. You were part of it from year the 3rd to the 5th year. So
Yeah. I mean,
And
that
we
was
didn't do anything for Let's Work, so I don't know why I feel pride about it, but I do.
no. I mean, yeah, it's crazy,
Yeah.
crazy time.
He also said before, because we asked him if he wanted to shamelessly plug anything from Let's Work, and he said no. But I'm going to. This is the hat is clean, man.
Thanks, man.
Big fan. We were like the tan or like / khaki hat. I like it. The color palette on it looks really good. The red and the blue looks slick. It's a nice hat, man.
No, I appreciate it, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely don't know how I came up
Leave
with this,
it on the
but-
counter when you go home. Okay. I want it. Mine now.
No, but I will say, like, it is also super cool seeing shirts in public, not even just mine, but like your guys's, because it's like, it's just a cool feeling. Cause I feel like we're all part of this like clan in a way. It's very weird, but I'm like, hey, I feel like if you wear a shirt like this, you're a good person. So like, what's your name?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
got something right.
Yeah.
That brings me. I was going to ask a question, but this brings up a funny story. I kind of have gotten like, just because I do see, Triad shirts pretty regularly. I don't always like feel the need to stop somebody wearing a Triad shirt. You know what I mean? It's like I see them enough where it's like, oh, it's cool. It's kind of a novelty. That's like cool. I definitely feel a sense of pride about it too. But I typically just like don't say anything. Like maybe make eye contact, smile, like normal kind of stuff. But if somebody comes to talk to me, whatever. Laurel on the other end, she goes, Triad. And she Triad every time. And I'm like, babe, no, you don't have to do that.
You gotta own it, man.
Yeah.
no, I like that.
Yeah.
You gotta own it.
Do
Yeah.
you do that anytime you see a Triad shirt?
No, but Alyssa does.
Try
She's not here to defend herself,
Yeah.
guys.
1000%.
Jeez.
Yeah. I think this is a good opportunity though, just for people to just kind of explain, how did Let's Work get started? What was kind of the original thought process, or where did it kind of come from? Because I know you were working at Triad when the Let's Work
Mhm.
stuff started to kind of appear. And then obviously, leaving Triad, a big part of that was you seeing that you had an opportunity with this and kind of
Mhm.
had the opportunity to kind of go out on your own.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, kind of give a little bit of a backstory on that.
Really, man, what happened was I started coaching, and then the only reason why I started coaching was because of Ryan. Ryan hit me up for nutrition coaching, and then I started coaching, and then I started promoting coaching. And honestly, I just had this small idea for like t-shirts for my clients to wear in the gym that said hashtag Let's Work. I had a random little like text on my phone, just an idea. And then what ended up happening is Zach, who actually used to work at Triad. I don't know if people know who Zach is.
Yeah, Zach Yunker.
He used to work at a t-shirt shop, and he started working back at that t-shirt shop.
Mm.
And then we randomly like were messaging one day, and I told him like about this idea for clients and t-shirts. So pretty much he was like, hey man, like we can do this for you. We can make some t-shirts for your clients. Honestly, I was planning on like making 10 t-shirts.
Yeah.
And then what ended up happening was
How funny is that?
what?
Like that this was started with a plan of 10 t-shirts.
Yeah. And then my mom was like, hey, you should like start selling these t-shirts. And I was like, okay, cool. Like I really didn't think anything of it. And then I ran a pre-order for the t-shirts, and then 5 t-shirts turned into like 10 turned into 15 into 50, 15 to like 100. And then I was just kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing, but it was an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I just kind of went as hard as I could with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty much just how it started.
I still have one of those 10.
Yeah. That's what I'm
Dang.
talking about.
Iconic.
I think I
Yeah.
got one of the original like 50 or 100.
Yeah, I was
but,
in there too. I was
but
in there
not
when
cool
she-
as
Because
Ryan.
Ryan has the one where like no one else has it. It's like a certain color because
Wow.
Zach had a bunch of blanks at the warehouse, so we're just kind of printing off of everything to see what
Yeah.
I would like. And I gave one to Ryan because he was my first client,
Yeah, you got
Dang.
like one of the trial ones.
A collector's item now.
That's it.
pretty
yeah.
much. And
Do you
I
have it
still
framed?
you should
It's just sitting in the closet right
Do you
now.
want him to
Nice.
sign it? Bring it up here.
Maybe one day.
Run
We'll wait.
home
one day. No, but that's pretty much how it started. And then I started to continuously run with it because I was also in prep as well.
hmm
So I knew I had a lot of momentum on my side in the sense of like social media. And I also kind of knew because it was in 2020, it was a really weird time. And I knew people were very stagnant, where we also had the mindset at Triad where it was like just straight on the gas.
Mm.
And I was pretty much in the same mindset as well. So I pretty much just continuously ran pre-orders for different t-shirts, accumulated enough money. I realized I had an opportunity.
Mhm.
And this is when I knew I was going to potentially leave.
Sure.
And it was actually whenever I got COVID. Remember I got COVID in
Mm.
2020? I got
Mhm.
super sick. And it was right when we were trying to decide if we are going to do sample triad or not.
Oh yeah.
And that was
Oh.
like a nightmare because it was like,
Dude.
yeah, dude.
Dude, I had to make the decision whether to do sample try it or not because we had already pushed it back one day.
Mhm.
Or we had pushed it back a couple of months because of COVID, and it had lightened up, and it was like, okay, it might line up, and then they had just put the mask mandate back in place like the day I was supposed to make the decision, and it was the same. It was, gosh, I think it was my birthday that day, and Alyssa had like birthday presents, like surprises for me in the morning. She rented the Tesla that day.
Mhm.
And I'm like on the way to work, like the most stressed I've ever been on, like, I don't know if we should cancel it or just keep it going. And now I've got to pretend to be like I'm excited and happy about this thing. And it was dope. And I was genuinely excited. But that weekend was a roller coaster.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because I remember getting sick and I was just like, oh shit. Because I was like, it was just a weird time, man.
Yeah, well, people didn't know what to expect at
Yeah.
that time either. So
Yeah.
it was
And-
like they didn't figure a lot of it out. So it was like,
A
how
ve-
long am I going to not be able to work? What does this look like? Am I
Yeah.
going to die?
A
Like,
very scary thing too, how much contact you have with everybody.
Mhm. And it was also like, we can't, shutting down the store as well, like just wasn't necessarily like a thing.
Mm.
It was like, bro, we shut down. Like,
Might run out of money.
yeah. Like,
Yeah.
because at this time as well, like we were starting the trend up, but like we were just like we were very creative during that time as well. Like Triad was in the sense of like selling merch. We made those like, remember those like sample things?
The little boxes.
Yeah. Like we were
Yeah.
just getting super
Yeah,
creative.
anything we could do.
Yeah. So like I remember it was like, we can't shut down.
Yeah.
So like we pushed forward with it. And then whenever I got sick, that's whenever I really took the time to like dissect and was like, maybe do I run with this opportunity? Because
Mhm.
we also signed the lease for Norman.
Mm.
And I was like, man, I personally didn't want to be in Norman and just like dip out as soon as I got there.
Yeah.
I also knew that like we were looking at Thomas and potentially trying to get him back in the mix. So I was just like, I don't know if this is a good time to do it, but I feel like it was the perfect time because I didn't want to get to Norman and be like, hey, I'm leaving.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you honestly did it like generally the time being like you did it in like the most like appreciated way that I can imagine is you told us right after we had gotten the keys and we were starting build out,
Mhm.
but you stayed around long enough to work shifts in Norman.
Mhm.
So you were around for the entire
Mm.
build out, and even actually able to work in the store until we could transition new people in. Because the whole idea was it was going to be you and me and Norman, and
Mhm.
you were going to take over management there.
Yeah.
It's it's funny to kind of look back on this because you always hear and talk about like things that are meant to be or whatever, but this was right such a funny thing. So I'd kind of come to the conclusion in my head after just kind of thinking and kind of at my current job when I was at the hospital. And so I remember getting a hold of Kevin and I was like, hey man, like I'd really love to sit down, like can we go to dinner? Like haven't seen you in a bit. We were working together, we were living together, but we never saw each other. Like it was one of those deals where it's just like
Mm.
super separated, even though we under the same roof most of the time. But I remember sitting there and being like, hey man, like I'd love to like go out to dinner, like let's go grab some food or something. Like hey, like Wednesday night, like let's go to dinner. I really want to talk to you about something. And you were like, yeah, sure man. And you were like, actually I need to talk to you about something too. And I was like, oh okay, cool, like this works out. And so we went to Texas Roadhouse.
Mm.
Shout out Texas Roadhouse, by the way, always stellar.
Ate way too many rolls.
Always. But It's funny, and it reminds me of kind of like what you're talking about. But I remember sitting down and like telling him, I was like, Kevin, I've really been reflecting on it. I've really been thinking about it and trying to get my head straight on this. But man, I'm ready to dive back in full time. I'm ready to, step away from the hospital and like come back to just being fully triad, And he was like, oh, well, that's funny because I need someone to run Norman. And so, but like, what a funny thing where it was like, we both were kind of at a point where we were wanting to kind of, I don't know what the right way to put it, but we were both kind of like looking for a sign.
Yeah, just exploring more options in a way.
And it was like, it couldn't have worked out, I think, better though. Like from an alignment standpoint, it was like literally the day I was like, he didn't like, we had chatted about it a number of times, but like the full on commitment of like, I'm sitting him down on Wednesday to tell him I want to go back to work at Triad full time, just happened to be the day that he wanted to sit down and talk to me about me coming back potentially to Triad to run Norman.
Yeah, because I told Kevin the Monday after Sample Triad.
Yeah.
Because I mean, because we were going to start build out on Norman, and I was like, I can't go into this not telling him, because like it was already me a blindside, and it would have been an even bigger one if I would have waited.
Sure.
If we wouldn't have had time to prepare for someone else to take over Norman.
Yeah.
No, that was, I know we even talked about, prior to, we had like, had small talks and made plans. Like in my head, it was funny. It was like, I felt like we were like making plans like 2 or 3 years in advance of, hey, maybe, after store 2 or after store 3 and transition you kind of this way, and like how to kind of transition you back. And it was just one of those that I remember the conversation with you was, obviously sad to leave, for you to leave, very much so. And it was like, man, we're losing a valuable member of the team. But at the same time, it was almost like a holy crap. Okay, maybe Thomas is up for it now. I don't know if he's ready yet or not, but hopefully.
Yeah.
And it happened to be the time that I was sitting him down telling him I was ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was it was crazy how that all worked out, because I also don't know if people, I think you guys talked about in the last podcast, but I put in like a 4 or 5 month notice.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that everything transitioned. And like, I even told you, like, I wanted to make sure I leave it better than I found it, because like I knew
100% did.
like it's, people don't understand, like opening a new store is like definitely like I don't know, that was a wild time for me, because like obviously you open Quail, but when you have 2 of them, it's like, hey, yeah, we're gonna have this grand opening day, but at the same time, like the store is open every other day after that.
Yeah.
So like you have to be ready to like transition and like take that on.
It was, for me, like the 2 biggest things were probably, with the first store, it was we had nothing to lose. With the second store, we've got everything to lose.
Yeah.
And with the first one, I could be there every single day to make sure every single detail was being handled. But with 2, I can't do that anymore. I can do 50% at best.
And we just need to I think that was the biggest thing, is we just had to make sure the right people were in place in order for this to like transition smoothly, because if not, like it could potentially like blow up in our face. And like, 1, I didn't want that.
Yeah.
Because like I had put so much into it. And 2, I think that would just be like extremely shitty for me to just be like, hey, I'm leaving in peace.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't want that.
Right. But again, man, I think it's like one of those things where you can, in retrospect now, it's almost like you look back and you just kind of laugh like, wow, well, that couldn't have worked out like literally any better. Like at the moment when we needed something, it was just kind of provided for us in the right way. And like, it's just cool. It's kind of a cool thing to look back to. Kind of getting back to Let's Work, like you're talking about, the mentality that we had, the mentality you had through prep, like coaching and stuff like that, was, Let's Work, like just the words themselves. Was it like a bit of a mantra for you? Was it like something that you thought about, or just like kind of the, keep grinding mentality? Or
honestly, man, it was just the hashtag that I started using like for a year prior to that.
So it meant nothing to you. Cool. All right.
Yeah, 100%. No, honestly, man, I think, 1, I was also going through like a pretty rough spot in 2019 with like my mental health. It was the first time I ever like struggled mentally.
Sure.
And I didn't know how to like fix it. And I started to go to therapy and stuff. And like my mindset was essentially just like, let's work. Like that really helped drag me out of a dark place that like I had essentially put myself. So like that was kind of like the meaning behind it.
That's cool.
And I also think just in the pandemic, man, like my mindset was just to be like extremely positive and just take as much opportunity as I could. because it was also extremely negative during that time. And like, I just don't necessarily like negativity. Obviously, like there are certain things like you just can't avoid, but like I'm more of like a, hey, I just control what I can control and I do what I can do. And like that was just my mindset the entire time. And then obviously as well as in prep. So I was just kind of like full send in everything.
Well, that's such a tough time too. And sorry, because I know Kevin probably has a similar point, but like, and Kevin, I'd like for you to enlighten us on this too. But it's like going through such a negative time and being in prep.
Yeah. Gosh,
Dude.
not to mention how many show dates got pushed around that year. Like how many
Yeah.
people just got stuck in prep because it's like, hey, your show date got pushed back 2 months. Well, do I stay in prep for an extra 2 months or do I pull out now, even though I put 3 months worth of work in?
Yeah, Chad Mathis right now. So Chad, anybody who doesn't know Chad Mathis, he just competed in California on the natural stage. Dude's a monster. He's got one of the best, if not the best, natural physique I think I've ever seen. Nicest guy in the world. Runs Kaizen gym. Does a bunch of coaching. Super cool guy. But one of the tough things I think about any bodybuilding, but especially when it comes to natural, is natural will move around show dates quite a bit. Like things get canceled and moved, and it's one of those things where I think by the time he finally stepped on stage, he'd been in prep for something like 10 or 11 months straight. Like no cheat meals, no nothing, just 11 months of prep, like all the way through. And I was like, how are you? He's like, at some point it's just life, I guess. Cause it's
food,
like,
he's probably the food has tasted better to him than it has 99% of the population.
Yeah.
Food is just different after prep. And 10 or 11 months, holy crap.
And I love Chad to death, but you can tell that he's been in prep for 11 months by the food combinations that he eats. It's hilarious. Like, don't get me wrong, I get where he's at, but he eats he'll just like post a picture of like rice, fish, and bananas.
Dude, I can't lie. That looks really good. I think he also has honey in it.
Yeah,
I get down with that.
Shout out to Chad and his banana fish.
How many bottles of mustard do you think you went through in your prep?
In that time, I can't, like, all jokes aside, I probably went through 6 a week.
Yeah.
6 a week?
Dude, because I was pushing it, man. So like I was like eating not really much food at all. So like my like thing was mustard. I was like,
I remember
like meal 1, meal 2, meal 3, meal 4, meal 5. Like, bro, I didn't have carrot. I didn't care if I had oatmeal in it. I'm putting mustard in it.
Dude, you still honestly kind of flirt that line. No wonder you thought Chad's banana fish looks good, because this man over here will post like brown sugar, cinnamon, rice and grinds, peanut butter, beef,
dude,
carrots,
dude, it's so good, man.
And salt, and he's just like, nope,
it's just like today. I don't know, man. I don't know if that's like a meathead thing, but you just get creative with your food and you put it in a giant bowl and you just eat it.
It sounds like a 4-year-old made that meal.
We
always laugh.
No, that's I get putting everything in a bowl. It's easier to just eat it like cereal.
Yeah, bro, I don't got time to sit down and do all this.
The combination though.
What's the episode of Friends where Rachel messes up the pages stick together, and she's like, it's like whipped cream, like strawberries, like cookies, ground beef, peas. Joey's eating. He's like, oh, I think it's pretty good.
What's not to like?
But going back to prepping, do you remember when we used to work out in the back of the store?
Oh yeah, that was a really cool period of time because
dude, that was fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah,
it was fun. I don't know if I'd go back to it though.
Yeah, 100%. But like whenever it happened, you were like, I'm going to Academy and I'm about to buy all this equipment. I had equipment at home, and then we would use like the energy drinks as like equipment as well. We just made it happen.
I remember, I'll give credit to Alyssa because we went and bought, just dude, Academy was like sold out of everything. So it was like we got 10-pound dumbbell, a 15-pound kettlebell, 1 barbell, no plates for it. And it's like, okay. So we just like bought anything that made sense and we brought it home. And it was Alyssa's idea of like, hey, we need a spot to use this and we can use it in the garage, but why not take it up to the store and just work out there? That way everybody else can use it as well. And when we did that, everybody else, like you brought equipment up there. I think Anthony brought some equipment up and we just made this like piece together gym. We took down a shelf in the back of the store. We barely had enough room to like put a barbell in between there. It was like a bunch of bands and like you said, just makeshift like energy drink, like cases of energy drinks and stuff like that.
Cause I still have like all those photos that we took during that time for like social media. So like I'll like
Mhm.
like I have like this memory thing that'll pop up, and like one of them recently was like you having 224 cans, a 24 pack of American Energy, just squatting with it. And
Yeah,
like that was
I remember that photo.
and that was like our social media post was like still trying to like get it in the back of the store.
Yeah. Dude, that was I liked how you brought up before. I haven't talked about it in a while, but that period of time that you know, everybody was kind of hunkering down when COVID was first hit, like starting, and there were lockdowns, and everybody got very, very conservative with everything that they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And our mentality, which hindsight definitely really paid off, and I'm glad we took that route. But I explain it as we doubled down on it,
Mm-hmm.
because we even, everybody was freaked out on what would happen, and I think we even kind of avoided the first couple of weeks of sales slowing down. But in the meantime, we were really worried that they were going to, so we put this whole plan together
Mm-hmm.
and had all these things that we thought could help out if we did start to slow down. And it was, I think we waited 3 days of sales slowing down about 50%, and we just foot on the gas and just put in, like, implemented everything we could possibly think of that would help us get back to a
Mm-hmm.
normal pace of sales. And we got back up to 80% of our projected sales, and actually did better than our previous year.
Mm-hmm.
But that was really cool to hear that carried over into Let's Work and your training and stuff after Triad, man. That mentality, because that was honestly a really cool time. Everybody's mentality at the
Mhm.
store, not just the company itself.
Yeah, but I also think, during that time we were kind of like, not to say too much on it, but like we took down all of our finances at one point. We're like, hey, what's the most amount you can like live off of?
Mhm.
Because like we don't know what's about to happen.
Right.
And then we're kind of like shutting everyone down, and we weren't sure yet if that would be us.
Yeah.
So we were just kind of like doing everything that we could to make it happen.
Yeah, I remember reading, I think it was a book that I read that talked about, there was a company that where a super common thing in the workplace, and like big corporate workplaces, is when they're not making enough sales, is to do layoffs and
Mm-hmm.
take down payroll.
Mhm.
And there was a company that kind of broke the mold and started introducing like pay cuts, but introducing it in the way of like, hey, we're all going to take a small pay cut so no one has to lose their job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what that did for company morale was just incredible. And it was
Yeah.
like, okay, like let's go that route then.
Mhm.
Yeah.
As opposed to looking at firing somebody.
Yeah.
We even did the same thing at the hospital. I remember, because we had so many people, but it was like, I ended up rounding up all of our employees, and I was like, hey, what is the minimum amount of hours that you have to work in order to be financially stable? Like, whether that's all 40, that's all 40. If that's 39, that's 39, like whatever that number is. And I just asked people to be honest about it. And it was one of those things where I was explaining to them, I was like, if I can get, because we had over 100 people, and it's like, if I can get 40 of you to give up 1 hour a week, just one single hour, so you're looking at $10, $11 to like $15 less a week. And it was like, I can save someone's job. And it was like, I had people who were, more generous on how many hours they give up. I had some college students who like lived at home, and they were like, yeah, I can give up 15 hours, we were like, and I essentially just took that all in a pot, and then like got all of the hours I needed to keep everybody, and then redistributed the hours back out to the people who had like given them up. And it was like, look, I'm not even saying I'm going to take it or go to the max, but it was like, it's cool because that's like, why aren't people doing it that way? I don't understand. It's like, instead of like looking at it as like a layoff, and it's like, no, I just need to fit this. That's all I need to do, because there are people here, especially at the hospital. Same thing when it came to Triad, was like, there are people here who can survive on just slightly less. And if we have enough people donate slightly less, we can make it work for everybody. And it's like, that's just like, I feel like a mindset that more people should have, or more companies should have when it comes to these struggles.
It kind of makes the layoffs to cut payroll sound just like an absolutely crazy idea. Like, why wouldn't you do it this way?
Well, and like you said, to piggyback off of that, like morale was so much higher because like we were the only department that I knew of doing that, and this is around the same time. So I'm sure we probably had conversations about this, and that's what kind of like sparked the idea, and all, and like, at least in me or whatever, but was like, morale when it came to people in the hospital, because they were looking at other departments and they were laying people off left and right, because you hear like, hey, we need you to cut 120 hours off of your payroll. You're like, oh shit, but in reality, it's like, if I have 120 people, everybody give up an hour. can you live on 39 hours a week as opposed to 40? Because if you can, we're good. I just made my quota.
Yeah. I hope I'm not outing him, and I won't say the number, but I will say the person that was the absolute best at keeping their fixed expenses low was Anthony. That dude had almost no fixed expenses.
Dude,
I
he
was like,
cut everything.
dude,
I was
Anthony came back with a number. I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, we're not going to cut it that much.
Anthony, I will say Anthony's also very generous and he's very selfless. So like that's a typical Anthony thing.
100%. How's the house?
It's good, man. I mean, I definitely don't see him.
Yeah.
Same kind of situation.
Dude, it's just how it is, man. I mean, even when we did work together, I never saw him because we never were on shift technically other than like sometimes the weekends. Especially as like I started the transition out. I will say when it was just me and him and then Trace and you, me and Anthony worked together all the time. So like we just saw each other at work, but now I just don't see him.
Yeah. For those that don't know, Anthony and Alfonso have lived together since
2019.
2019.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird because it's like, oh yeah, like we still live together.
Yeah. No, he always said, the way he talks about you, it makes it sound like you guys are very solid roommates.
Oh, 100%.
Which can be really hard to come by.
Yeah, because like it's one of those deals where it's like, hey, I got your back, you got mine. You know, if you see something that needs to get done, just get it done.
Yeah.
Take out the trash, wash the dishes. Like we swap on and off with mowing the lawn. I mean, just basic stuff.
You guys can be real with each other and still be friends.
Yeah.
That's tough.
And dude, I think, that's one of the, that's why he's like one of my best friends because it's like we're very honest with each other. And I will say he definitely is like a little kid at times where he'll like start talking shit just to get underneath my skin. But like he knows that like I respond best to that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Anthony, I will kill you.
Well, it's a funny thing because I really do think that that's at least, it's been a pretty major part of, I think, our relationship too, is just in the sense of like, we were living and working together even at S2. And it's like, we've continued to do that for, we did that for what, 6 years? 6 years of living together pretty much straight.
We had a year in Springfield together in the loft and had, I think, 5 years here.
Yeah. So 6 years of living together. And I think there's like definitely an aspect of it where it's like, being close friends, best friends kind of thing, and living together a lot of time doesn't work at all.
That's and working together on top of that.
Yeah. And it's like, we've made it work as well as I think it can. But I think that that's like translated to, a lot of interesting thing, you say that. And I think it's an interesting aspect that like Kevin and I even have when it comes to like the company side of things is, kind of like we've talked about previously in podcasts where it's like Kevin and I will have to kind of like talk to each other about things, or like, I don't want to say call out because I don't think that's the right phrase, but just like, hey, like this thing that, isn't working anymore, or this thing here isn't working anymore. And it's like, I think because we have so much experience with each other, we have the freedom to be honest with each other because we know that there's like, neither of us have ever had any malice towards each other over 10 years of being best friends. It's like neither of us have ever done anything to the other person that wasn't just trying to make them be the best person that they could be. You're the best in the situation that they could be. And it's like, it does lend, uniquely to then working together, because that doesn't always work. People a lot of times don't take honesty super well, but it's like, I think we've had enough experiences and enough life outside of Triad. We were friends before Triad, we've had enough of that where it's like, when you come to me and you're like, hey, I need this from you, or like I come to you and I'm like, hey, I need this from you, or if we're changing something or whatever, it's like, I think that we can both look at it, even if we have our own frustrations for a second or two. I think we also have the idea of like, we're just trying to make this better. Like we're both as committed to this as you can be. And it's like, we can kind of look each other and be like, hey man, I got to call you out here. Like, this wasn't the right move, or, this wasn't the right thing, or, hey, I was disappointed about this. And it's like, cool. Well, I take that honesty more to heart than I think I do from anybody, because I know where it comes from.
I also think it's like a respect thing. It's like, when to say something, when not to say anything. Even,
the boundaries.
Yeah. Like I know when I need to say something to Anthony, even like with you, I knew like, hey, he's stressed. Like, let me get this situated. So like, because like it's just unneeded. You know what I mean? Like you don't need to dump a fire already on someone.
This is really funny because I have to bring it up. So one of the things that I think you will appreciate this more than most. So we have a whole bunch of different group chats that we use for different things, whether it's like a Norman group chat, an overall group chat. We've got a manager's group chat, just kind of everything, a products chat. But one of my favorite ones personally is the manager's group chat that doesn't have Kevin in it. And it's called, Kevin, would you want to say what it's called?
No, you came up with the name, so you can say it.
It's called Kevin Has Gray Sideburns. because the more stressed Kevin gets, the grayer them sideburns are going to get. So it's the we have a manager's one with him in it, and we have a manager's one without him in it. And it's funny because we'll text in there and we'll talk. I even kind of, because we just recently added Preston to it as he's transitioning into management, and I sent kind of an opening text message to him in the group so you kind of have an understanding of it. I was like, hey, here's where like we talk about problems that we're going to handle before like
This mic is up.
Uh-oh.
I think we're good.
This is where we're going to talk about problems before Kevin has to hear about it, so that we can kind of handle these problems. Sorry, we're having a little bit of feedback on the over the headphones. So we're kind of talking about things that have happened, we're talking about this group chat where it's called Kevin's Has Gray Sideburns, and part of it is like, I sent a message into the group that was just kind of explaining like, hey, what this group is about, like what it's for. And the message I sent was like, hey, this is where the managers figure out problems before it ever gets to Kevin, so that we don't stress him out to the point of having gray sideburns. And so not many messages come through there, but definitely has its fair share of just like, hey, we're not even telling Kevin about this until it's resolved, so that he just doesn't have to worry about it, because Kevin gets a little stressy wessy.
Anything is appreciated.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it is, right? Because like, I know in just like my own leadership times where it's like when people came to me with everything, and I know that that's things that's happened with you, and I'm sure you as well, where it's like when people come to you with every single little problem as opposed to just figuring it out on their own. It's like one of my favorite ones was, I won't name anybody, but like somebody asked me, they were going to a sample event and they asked me the address of the gym, and I was like, I don't know. Google it. Like, what do you want from me?
Well, it's like, I don't need problems, I need solutions.
Amen. But it's a really funny time. I think it's just funny because we're potentially changing the name of it to Just for Men, the hair care products, the like thing that turns it from gray to not gray.
The thing that the further we get, the more I start to feel like Houston. Houston, we have a problem. That's illegitimate. It's my job is turned less into just a daily grind and just constantly getting after it, more to like,
you're a fire extinguisher.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just constantly getting problems.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be, a whiny.
No, let it loose.
Yeah. Let's hear it.
Say what you need to
call
say.
out names.
Thomas,
hey, I've caused him stress for sure.
But no, you think about it, it's like, hey, you deal with one problem a week and you come to me once a week, that's a dozen problems a week that I'm dealing with because everybody has one too.
Right. And so that's it. We started this a while ago, but it's like Anthony and I, Anthony's really good about it. Anthony's one of those people who is like, deal with problems before it ever has to go any further up the ladder or up the chain any further. And so it's, we've kind of implemented that of just being like, hey, there is a 90% of the problems that we come across is like the leaders of the store, like we can handle amongst ourselves. We get advice from each other. We do all those kind of things. But it is really funny that, we're kind of talking about this because, it's definitely a shield for him. But it's like, it's something.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony just comes home and tells me, "Oh my God, bro."
You're essentially part of the team.
Fires and no,
you know about more problems than I do.
Probably does.
But I also think like, I mean, we both do that. It's like sometimes you just gotta like emotionally dump,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, hey, my bad, I didn't mean to. But it's like, no, you're good because I do the same thing all the time. There's just a time and place to do it.
There's a difference between there's a balance between like venting and having a negative mindset though. Like sometimes you just got to get things off your chest, but some that can transition into like constantly being negative. That's for sure.
That is, I mean, even when I was there, like we never like talking shit about anyone, but sometimes it's like, dude, just get it done so like we can move forward.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
But
so obviously when you first left Triad, it was, man, you were doing apparel and coaching full time and you were supporting yourself just with those two things, but obviously got involved with Pride Foods, and we all had a relationship with and still have a relationship with Sean Vasquez, and very close friends with him.
Right.
Obviously you've become very close. How did that kind of come to fruition?
So it's kind of weird, man, because I've never publicly shared this. But I knew after my time, I felt like I came to Triad and I did what I was called to do. I don't know what that was. If I was getting to like helping the second location in Norman, I just felt like I had accomplished what I was called to do. And the last day there, I actually texted a good friend of mine. I was like, hey, because with Let's Work and like my coaching, I didn't necessarily know what I was doing. I was just like a free for all, like full send. I was saving as much money as I could, because also when you're in prep, you don't spend a lot of money at all on food, because like you're eating 1,000 calories.
And you're not going out.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like I was just trying to save as much money as I could. And on my last day, I texted a really good friend of mine and I told her like, hey, I don't know where I'm going next, but just please pray that God opens the next door for me.
Yeah.
And I had full intentions of doing my own thing, and I planned it out and had enough money to last me about like 6 to 8 months, hopefully.
Nice.
And then a month later, Sean kind of hit me up and I was just kind of like, man, great opportunity to kind of start out within another small business and kind of grow and scale within it. But I think one of the biggest things was just me learning more as well. Because there's a big difference between working in a store and being face to face and just strictly social media.
1,000%.
Obviously, in social media, you still have, an online, just strictly online business. You still have the opportunities to like shake your customers' hands and go to events. But it's a lot different whenever you're not just in a store every day and you're not like doing the straight guerrilla warfare, like marketing tactic where it's like, you just try to shake as many hands as you can. So if anything, like I said, a month later, an opportunity presented itself and I was like, sure, like, let's just see where this can go. Because I was just like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
One thing you guys brought up in the Pride Foods podcast, is it called Pridecast?
No, it's called Live with Pride.
Live with Pride.
Project. Yeah.
Live with Pride
Oh, I
Project.
thought it was Live with Pride.
What? Is it called Live with Pride?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, no.
So many good name opportunities.
Well, Live and Live are spelled the same.
That's true. We definitely butchered it.
But you guys brought up in one of the podcasts recently that a lot of people, because it's a big company and sells all over the US and you see big names using the products. One thing that you guys brought up is a lot of people are surprised that it's just you and Sean.
Yeah.
And so you're in a very similar position that you were, when with your time at Triad of very minimal people. But what's your day-to-day look like there? I know you said there was obviously differences, but
yeah, it's pretty much, everything, man. Obviously packing orders, it's probably like my first priority. And then social media, answering messages, customer service, wholesale orders, social media posts. Essentially everything. If I have a new idea, I try to implement it, doing a podcast as well. That's just kind of how it is. But, that's essentially my day to day. And then obviously traveling to events, like I just went to Wisconsin for the CrossFit Games. That was pretty cool. I've gone to the St. Louis Pro, few shows in Texas. So essentially just kind of handle everything as much as I can, because I will say when there's 2 people, it's a lot of work, especially when we've had these new products release, making sure those get out the door of like
Shout
influencers.
Shout out to the Crispies.
dude, those Pride Krispies move at Triad.
Oh,
they're so good.
You don't understand. Trying to work in a warehouse with nothing but food. And now we got these butters as well. And it's like, bro.
Ooh. What was the inspiration behind that? I didn't even realize that it was spelled Budders.
Butters.
I'm pretty sure it's because of Kinder.
That was Alyssa's guess, I think. Yeah.
Because like she would just say, I want butter. And it just makes sense to be like, oh, that's like
Butter.
really smart.
Yeah.
So it's just like butter. So that's pretty much what my day-to-day looks like, man. Just a lot of essentially everything, like the
Pretty
right-hand
much.
man.
Anything Sean doesn't do.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I had a question. How do you guys handle things like, you guys just spent a week at the CrossFit Games. How do you guys handle things as far as like, I'm sure you can do, answer messages and handle social media from a distance, but how do you handle like packing orders and making sure everything runs smoothly at the warehouse?
So it is very difficult, but like we'll have someone come in for a day or two. If we have to miss a day of like fulfilling orders, that's fine. Because like because most companies, whenever you ship online, people are like, oh, it's going to take like a week because they'll ship it like next day.
Yeah.
Or normally we always ship it like same day because it's like, it doesn't take that long.
You're picking up orders every day. So,
yeah. But it's like, we'll just let it sit for a day or two until someone can get there. We'll try to coordinate with someone to like help pick orders. But like whenever it comes to like social media and like answering messages and stuff and like customer service, emails, that's where it gets a little difficult because we're not able to stay on top of it as much as we would like.
Yeah, you're out shaking hands, talking to people. You can't be sitting on your laptop all day.
Because it's just difficult, man, because people, like I said, they truly don't understand like it's 2 people. It's just a lot of work. And it's like having to balance everything and be customer service, be marketing, be finances, be influencer manager, like it just adds up to so much sometimes that it's like it's very difficult to manage.
Any talk of hiring on another person?
We would like to, and I do think we're starting to trend a lot more in that direction because we had a lot of issues with rice and grinds, and I'll let Sean talk about this more, but like we're starting to get those like more situated. So we're like, we can fully press on the gas in the sense of like influencers and like marketing, because we just signed our first athlete, Pat Vellner.
That's
CrossFit Games.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's a wild sign.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Even going to the games is cool, but it allows us now to really just put foot on the gas and just like full steam ahead.
Sure.
But I think in the meantime as well, though, like even in the beginning of Try, like you try to do as much as you can, because like you want to keep expenses low, because expenses, man, can just get out of hand, out of nowhere.
Oh yeah.
Like shipping orders, I mean, prices of boxes gone up, shipping's gone up, shipping supplies have gone up. I mean, it just adds up so quickly.
Well, and I think people forget this all the time, especially when they have never kind of been in a situation where they're running a small business or helping with a small business, where the go-to, and I know this is not what Kevin meant, but when people are just like, oh, just hire somebody. Oh, just hire somebody. You know,
you have no
like how many
idea.
times have we heard that at Triad? Like, oh, we'll just hire somebody. And it's like, you don't understand, like when you, like there's a commitment on both sides of that, right? So it's like, sure, this person's committing to come and work here, but I'm committing to having a job and like pay for you for as long as you need it, or as long as, you know, like as long as things are going smoothly. And so it's like, we always hear like, oh, just hire more. And it's like, well, you know, it doesn't always work that way. Like sometimes, sure, we're a little busier in the store and yeah, we could use an extra person, but like, what if you then slow down?
Yeah.
What do you do?
We accidentally hired one person too many at one point and almost went under.
Yeah, literally.
Very real story.
Because it's like, it's all this extra cost, it's all this extra stuff. And you're just like trying to find something for them to do, because it's like, we can't hire temporary, like, you know, our you know, our training, for anybody who doesn't know, I think we've covered this a little bit, but our training is a month long just to get to the point where we even like, okay, you can start to work here. And it's like, really, no one's really hitting their stride until about their 1 year mark is about an average for us. But it's like, you know, we couldn't even, in temporary work, like we couldn't even hire somebody, you know, or like get them through training in time to like even know. But it happens all the time. It's like, you know, I think we've gotten better as time has gone on, where we kind of know our fluctuations. Luckily, we've been open, you know, going to be 7 years soon, but it's like through that we've got 7 years of, you know, data to kind of look back to, of like, hey, these are the trends, these are the things that we have like a pretty good idea. You know, like we always talk about potentially ramping up for January, because we know January, as soon as the new year starts, huge for the fitness industry. For anybody who doesn't know, it's just like how massive of a thing that is. It definitely is something that, you know, gets everything going at the beginning of the year. And so, yeah, it's like, you know, people are always like, oh, just hire somebody, just bring somebody on. It's like, I literally am at that point committing to like provide for somebody. And it's like, I can't always, like, I'm not always in a point where I can just say like, yeah, let's pull the trigger on that. You know, you don't want to go, you'd rather be late than early on that. And it's tough. It's super tough.
Yeah.
We've also been late too. So lesson
It's-
learned on both ways. It's a delicate balance, dude.
Dude, yeah. I mean, hiring and people in general, man, is just so difficult.
Oh,
It's
Yeah.
a lot, man.
oh yeah. And then finding someone, you know, I think especially for us, as it's like, and I know this is exactly how you feel about it too, but it's like finding somebody actually committed enough to the cause, someone committed to, you know, what it actually takes to do this, what the day-to-day is like. You know, you don't want somebody, and you can't have somebody, especially you guys as a company still figuring things out, which I don't know if that ever goes away, I'm sure, but as a company's like still figuring things out, is like, you don't want the, oh, you want me to do another task? Well, does that mean I get a raise? Like, no, like we just need you to answer some messages
It's
here,
like, hey,
man.
you're,
Like,
you're going to work a lot more than you get paid.
yeah. And
Like-
it's like, and I understand paying people and, you know, paying people fairly, and we give raises and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, there is a thing where it's just like, you know, you don't want to have the guy or girl, I guess, who's like, oh, you want me to restock the store too? I thought I was just, you know, well,
Yeah.
well, how much do I get paid for that task?
If you're, because we're pretty lax at the store about being on your phone. There's never been any rules, and you can spend time on your phone. But if you're spending time on Instagram while you're on shift, which is fine, we can't pay you extra to restock.
To be clear, no one's ever asked to be paid for extra for restocking, but
Good example, because it hasn't happened.
yeah, right. But but that's it. It's like finding somebody who's like, you know, understands that they're looking at something like Pride Foods is such a phenomenal example of like, this is a real opportunity. This is a real deal. This is not something that's like this, like, oh, maybe for a little bit or whatever. It's like, no, like you have absolutely every opportunity to make a career here long term because of the product and the thing that you guys are providing.
Well, it's not even like a career, but like just opportunity in general to learn and to build relationships and to develop skills. Because like, dude, that's what's going to set you apart from everyone else. It's like, yeah, everyone has a college degree, but what have you done other than that? And that's not to talk about college as a whole, but like, it's just got to be honest here, man. It's like, what are your skills? What have you done? It's like, I don't have a resume.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you the last time I made a resume.
Amen.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about having to deal with like price increases, especially over the last couple of years since it hit. I know us, probably about a year after COVID initially hit. But what kind of price increases have you guys had to deal with so far?
It's mostly not necessarily product wise. It's mostly shipping and like boxes and supplies and small things like that. It's kind of weird, man, because like the shipping stuff like adds up so much because it's like, yeah, you can offer free shipping, but if your shipping cost went up $4, well, I mean, like that takes away $4 of your money.
Right.
And like now your box went up 85 cents. Well, that's 85 cents.
Right.
The packing paper,
there's
the
not
tape,
a lot of room on this anymore.
And then you start eating away at margins. So I will say like a majority of our stuff has definitely come from just the packing.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, they 1000% gets you on shipping. And I also think another thing as well, just kind of like your products are, it's all weight. So like if you're shipping, 4 3-pound bags, that's 12 pounds. And like if you're way over that threshold where it doesn't fit in a certain box as well, it's like, well, now you're also paying an extra $3. And it's like that eats at you so much. And before you know it,
nickel and dime to death.
Yeah, free shipping is no longer like at the certain minimum. You got to raise that minimum just to make sure that you're covering your costs.
Yeah.
It's not about being greedy. It's just about like, hey, you have to make X amount in order to function.
So I've noticed, you guys haven't had to raise too many of the prices of like the actual products. I don't think you guys have at all, but shipping is where you guys are kind of having to make adjustments.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, shipping pallets, receiving pallets, that's where it adds up, man. But I mean, hopefully things in the future it starts to kind of slow back down, because it would be nice to keep, that's something that him and I talk about. It'd be nice to keep the cost of goods like the same for the consumer.
Yeah.
Because going up in price, man, it's just never fun.
Oh yeah. I mean, you even look at what we've had to deal with where it's like, that's the toughest thing right now is when we have a customer who comes in the store who has bought supplements in 6 months to a year. And you're just like, they come in and I'm like, oh man, like I'm going to have to explain to you that we aren't just trying to rake you over the coals here. Like I have to try to explain to you, that and one of the things I do is, a lot of times we're pretty honest when it comes to things. I'll tell somebody what we buy it for, like, because a good example is like creatine. Creatine is one of those things that has more than quadrupled in cost. It seems like doubled to quadrupled or doubled to tripled in cost, somewhere in there. And it's like, we used to be able to sell 100 servings of creatine for $16 to $20, something like that. And now it's $40, and then a guy come in and he was like, well, last time I got this, it was $16. And I had to be like, man, just so you know, like we buy that for like 36. Like I can't sell you this for $16 anymore when I buy it for $36 to put it on the shelf. It's like, I just can't, that obviously doesn't make any sense, but it's like, just trying to get like an explanation to a customer at times because, it's not really, I don't know how to put this, but it's like, it's not always the responsibility to like keep up with that. Why is he keeping track of creatine prices long term? But it's like, can be tough to talk about.
I think a good example is the Define Way, because creatine's gone up substantially, and that's something that we're ordering directly from vendors, but we don't personally make any creatine with Define Nutrition. But protein's another one that's gosh, probably about doubled in price. And so our Define Way has gone up by so much, and we've already done one price bump. And when we initially, it was initially 55 for 5 pounds of protein, and we had to bump the price. Well, our price almost doubled when we placed our most recent order, and meaning that if we kept it at 55, it's like, we're going to make almost no money on this. So it's like, doesn't even make sense. So like either we don't order this or we have to bump the price, and we want to be consistent with our products. Right. So, okay, what do we bump the price to? and we ended up landing on 75. Well, in reality, we should have probably bumped it to like 85 or 90 to make the same margin we used to make.
Yeah.
But we ate into our margin to be able to only have to bump it to 75. But when a customer comes in and sees it's bumped from 55 to 75, they don't see that.
Yeah.
So it's hard to explain that side of things. But it's like, guys, we're making less money, even though we're charging more for it.
And they also don't see the quantities going up.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, if your quantity goes up as well as your cost of goods, like that is like over 2 times the money you would have originally spent and planned for. And that eats at other projects as well.
Yes.
To kind of explain a little bit more to everybody, this is something that we've recently talked about on the podcast was, you know, when we were telling this story about kind of Define Nutrition getting started, is the minimums of how many you have to actually order in order to start a product. So, you know, you're extremely lucky if you find 250. You're lucky if you find 500. Pretty average is about 1,000. And it's like, we're starting to see one of the things in the industry is like for it to be worth manufacturers' costs on their own. Because again, you know, we're talking about our price increases. Well, they come from their price increases.
They're probably eating into their margin too.
They're eating into their margin. Well, one of the big things that changed that Alfonso is kind of referring to is a lot of manufacturers have upped their minimums. So when you used to be able to get 500 per flavor, well, now they want 1,000. And so you have to understand, like, your cost, you know, your barrier to entry at that just doubled. Like, and so, you know, especially when you have expiring goods, that's a scary thing, you know, when, you know, when it was like, oh, and just from things that I've heard, especially when it comes to food manufacturing, that it can be even worse than it is for like supplement manufacturing. It's like, you know, you might be looking at, oh, you want to order a bar? Cool. Like it'll be 50,000 as a minimum or something crazy like that. And it's like,
we ordered 999. I'm pretty sure it was close to like almost 100,000 bars.
Wow.
Yeah, because it was either like you do that and you pay like X amount, or you do 3/4 and it's almost X amount. You don't get as many bars.
Right.
And it's like, well, at that point, it's like, well, just order it and we're just going to hand them out like candy.
Right.
Right.
So,
that gives you a quarter of your inventory is just free, essentially.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, because even whenever I look at those and like you'll tell me, I'm like, Jesus, dude, like that is
it's
an
crazy.
obnoxious amount of bars you have to order, because like finding a mom and pop like not retailer but manufacturer is just like very difficult. Like if you want the standard to be there, like you have to go with the big ones that are already well established, and like will even like play, like they won't acknowledge you if you're not ordering that amount.
Yeah.
Dude, you brought up a good point earlier, and one thing that I wasn't even personally necessarily aware of, but like how much money you have to spend, like when a price of something goes up, like, you know, when the price of Define Whey doubles, we have to find, you know, double the amount of money that we were initially planning on to use to reorder that we made back from selling the product. We've got to find an extra 20 grand to be able to put into this. And that was one thing that absolutely crushed us last year. We saw more profit. If you look at our profit and loss sheet, we saw more profit, and I'll even give numbers to not be super transparent, or to try and be super transparent, but we saw roughly $200,000 in profit last year, but $160,000 of that went into inventory just to keep up with how much inventory the stores need. A lot of that being Define and price increases and minimum increases. It's like, at the end of the day, we're paying taxes on that $200,000 of money that we made, quotation marks, but we're only actually seeing 40 of it for an entire year.
Right. That's the thing I think people don't realize all the time too, is it's like, oh, you know, you sell the stuff, you see have I successful, and it's like, oh, well, all these price increases is like, oh, that ate, you know, more than 3/4 of the entire company's profit just to maintain the inventory because of the price increases.
Just to maintain.
And you also tax on what you have still in stock and haven't sold.
Yeah. In the 200,000 plus.
Like, well, that's
that
bizarre.
We can actually get. Like, so the tax on the tax.
It's like, wow, this is crazy. Like
interesting.
I actually stopped by Tribe before I stopped in, and I see you guys added the extra shelf, and I was talking to Anthony. I was like, dude, how much like money do you guys have invested in the inventory? Because you guys also have brought in a lot more new brands and like I'm like not familiar with, like a ton of different new stuff, and you had an extra shelf, and I'm like, Jesus, dude, like this is 4 times as much as when I was here. I remember when like we couldn't even order a new mop bucket because like it was broken. I also remember whenever Kevin was like, hey, we profited $3 this month. because like that was the first time like you implemented that thing.
We didn't lose money.
Yeah. Like, and I'm just like,
Huzzah.
I'm standing in there and I'm like, Jesus, dude, like this is weird, but it's also
Yeah.
really cool
Yeah.
to see.
How did
because
that extra shelf look in the store?
It looked good, man. I'm a
Good.
huge fan of it. I'm also a huge fan of on the bars, you have like more overstock up
Mhm.
there because
Mm.
it looks like it's like, hey, you can take as much as you want,
Yeah.
which I think is
It
a
is
smart idea.
But it is towering. With
Yeah.
how much like it's crazy when it's like we were joking about this. This is like the top shelf now. I'm 6'4" and it is well above my head. And that very top shelf, like I can reach and get stuff, but
How
most
does
people.
Anthony?
We got him. Those like little workout trampolines.
Oh,
The little
yeah,
the
yeah.
little.
He
those
bounces
ones.
on him.
Yeah, dude. He's
Nice.
got some tricks though. Everybody go up to the store, ask him to.
Does he bark?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sorry, Anthony.
Yeah.
Real quick, Thomas Bark.
That's crazy, dude. I didn't think about that, man. I wouldn't be able to reach it.
No.
That'd be really weird.
Yeah, no, it's really weird when Kaylin and Anthony are on shift together. They just like two guys in a trench coat it. They just like
It's like, hey, you get on my shoulders.
yeah, Anthony's just on Kaylin's shoulders. And he's like, I can get that for you, sir.
Kevin said we needed a restock. It's like, all right.
All
Is
right.
this just
Alley-o.
is this just two kids in a trench coat? No, sir. How dare you?
Absolutely not.
That's funny.
No turn. No, the other way.
Have you noticed price increases with Let's Work at all?
Not really, man, which has been nice.
Yeah.
I will say it's kind of weird because like there has been maybe like a potential small price increase, but it's like very minimal, which is nice. The only issue that I will say with apparel is like out of stocks.
Yeah.
Because I print on a lot of blanks. So like it's not necessarily like my t-shirt, but I'll print on it and I'll, obviously do my design on it. But like if they doesn't have a certain t-shirt that I need, then it kind of ruins it. Especially if I want to do like a certain collection with like a tie-dye. Like I really want to do these tie-dye t-shirts, but it's like there's a few that are still missing that I really want to be a part of it because I know the way it will look.
Right.
I know how to market it. And it's like, well, I can't technically do that until I have those all in. So I either have to find a way to get creative or just wait it out until they are back in stock because things are starting to slowly come back in. But there was that period of time where it was like ordering blanks was pretty much like just wasn't happening. Like you can still get the next
That's
level
rough.
ones, but like you can't get certain ones that like I wanted.
The
That's
more
super rough.
unique ones, that you're limited not only by your creativity, but what actually is out there,
Right.
what they have in inventory.
And if you aren't manufacturing your own goods as well, which is like a long process that I'm trying to get more into, it's very difficult to like want to do the same things.
Well, and I think the barrier to entry there is a little bit different too. Like you
Mhm.
typically, once you start ordering, more in mass quantity, so like hold more inventory and stuff like that, that's where things start to like,
Right.
now your minimum went from being 100 to now your minimum's 1,000. And it's like, oh, you want 1,000 shirts? Like that's when stuff starts becoming kind of scary. I at least feel like when it's like, oh, you're investing all this money, but
Yeah. It's a little difficult, but make it work.
I think one of the things, though, to kind of give you some kudos here, too, and I know it's something that we personally believe in a ton, Triad defined just kind of in the way that we try to run businesses, is like, first and foremost, I appreciate your willingness to dive fully into something, right?
Mhm.
To actually go 100% on it. One of the talks that's been happening around the store a lot is, and I know we've had this, Kevin and I have had this conversation a ton of times, too, is like, why try to not be the best at something? Why try to be the second best? Like we talk about all the time how we get suggestions from people and things that we should do, and they're always welcome. And I don't have a problem with anybody giving us suggestions, but a lot of times the suggestions are for us to open a completely different business or a completely new business. And it's like one of the things that we always talk about is like we spend all this time, all this effort, all of us 40 plus hours a week on just being the best supplement store possible. And how, if we were to add another dynamic into that of like, I don't know, whatever it is, I don't want to name anything specific, but it's like, if we were to do this on top of it, it's like, well, now,
It takes away from the first thing.
it does. Right. So I think a good
Mhm.
example, and I totally understand the thought process too. And this is not any hate to anybody who's ever recommended this, but one of the common ones that we get frequently is that we should be a smoothie shop. We should be teas and shakes and stuff like that. And one of the things that I brought up, because even our employees ask questions like that, like, oh man, I feel like we would sell a lot of that. I feel like we'd be successful with that. And I'm like, I'm not doubting our success and our ability to do that. The thing is like, okay, we have 2 people on shift right now. You've got 6 smoothie orders up. and somebody came in for supplements, how able to help them to your fullest are you anymore? Energy is a finite thing. And once we start taking energy away from our customers when they come to us being a supplement store and putting it into other things that aren't being a supplement store, we lose quality in being a supplement store, right? We look at all these things because there's a million facets within being a supplement store that you can be the best at that thing. But once you start adding entire other businesses and things that are completely different, it's like a lot of what that's actually doing at that point is just shrinking the amount of energy that you can actually give when it comes to people coming in the store for supplements.
Right. And I think there's a huge difference between being an entrepreneur and being a successful one. Like this is something that I've taken away from you.
We've got bad news.
This is something that I've taken away from Kevin, is that he's always like, people would jump from thing to thing to thing. And it's like, bro, you have to stick with the same thing and write it out. You don't have to necessarily follow the same plan. You might have to change directions, but if you're hopping from thing to thing to thing, like it never works. And like, I will say, whenever you kind of first get into like this space, you're like, oh, I can do anything. And it's like, yeah, you can do anything, but should you do it? Because now it's taken away from this. And maybe even brought up like the pilot license, like later in life. It's like, yeah, that's later in life whenever you can do those things. But right now, would that be the most beneficial thing to do? And it probably wouldn't be.
Right.
Even though it'd be super dope to like see Kevin in an airplane.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey.
Yeah, dude. But that's the thing too, is, you know, because this is what I personally, and I could be totally wrong on this, but this is what I personally believe. If we are trying to be both of those things at once, you're trying to be two businesses at once, what we become is, if I can't focus all of my energy on being a smoothie shop, which there's nothing wrong with those. I'm not saying anything negative about those in any way, but I won't be the best smoothie shop in town. I can't be, right? Because I have too many other focuses on trying to be a supplement store as well. And so when it comes to that, it's like, I'm not going to be able to compete with, you know, there's a smoothie shop right next to Triad, like at the Quail Springs location. I'm not going to be better than them. I know that, right? And so what ends up happening is like, I'm not beating them, and I'm becoming worse at the thing that I do think I'm the best at. And so what ends up happening is like, you get into a situation where, and I hate to hammer just this single aspect of it, but it's like, now I'm the second best smoothie shop and I'm the second best supplement store. And now I'm for nobody. Now I apply to no one. No one comes to me for anything, right? You know, we see that even when it comes to, you know, this is one that I always think is like interesting, but you'll see it sometimes with supplements and just things in general. But it's like, it's always interesting when like people don't fully lean into something or don't go for it. I think a good example is like flavorings of stuff, right? It's like, you can't flavor something for everyone, but make sure it's for somebody, right? And so like, no one's going to like everything, but if you lean into something, I think pina colada is a good flavor to like use as an example. Pina colada is not the most appealing flavor to everybody, for sure. But if you try to appeal to everybody, like the one thing that most people say they don't like about pina colada is they don't like coconut, right? But if I make a pina colada product and I take the coconut out of it, right, I then am thinking like, oh, well, now I'm applying to everybody. In reality, what I'm doing is people who like pina colada buy it and they go, this isn't pina colada, it doesn't taste like coconut, and my pina colada people don't like it. Then
They're not even trying it.
They don't like it.
Well, they don't. Yeah.
And then the people who don't like pina colada aren't buying it in the first place. Right. So the people you're trying to like apply to as well, none of them like it, right? And so you end up trying to be for everybody, and then you end up being for nobody. And I think it's one of those things that I really appreciate about Let's Work, is that you have very much been like, I'm going to dive into this as best as I can. And it's not for everyone, right?
Yeah.
But that's even a hashtag and stuff I use. Don't know if anybody does. I work that in there. But
wait, I thought Let's Work was for everybody.
I remember you guys would make that joke all the time. Like, isn't it for everyone, Alfonso?
I'm pretty sure it's for everyone. But it's one of those things where I think that you've realized that you're not going to apply to everyone. And by doing that, you've applied to most people, right? Yeah. Because like you're not trying to make a pina colada without coconut, because it's like the people who don't want it aren't going to want it, and you're not going to change that, right?
You just got to find your niche and write it.
Right. But then if you undersell it to that niche, then what are you doing? You're for nobody. You're literally for no one at that point.
It's we have this, you say this all the time too. It's like, you much rather have 50% of the population love you than 100% of the population like you.
Right.
Because if you have a loyal customer, they're going to shop with you until forever.
Right.
And you just want to repeat that. But if you just have 100% of the population just like you, It's
Someone else could step in real easily.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You had a good, I think it was you that told me this analogy, and I don't know where it came from, but maybe it's an Alfonso original, but the grocery cart analogy. I hope it was you that told me this, and I hope you know what I'm talking about. But
You're
I don't
getting
know.
credit
I
for
say
it.
a lot of wacky things. So I don't know.
the grocery cart analogy being the grocery cart is your business, and what you put in the cart has to make sense for your business. You don't go to the grocery store and buy everything.
Mhm.
Everything's food. Everything is an opportunity for your business, but which ones make sense for your diet, your goals, what you like, what makes sense for you.
Mhm.
You pick out those things. And it's like, hey, I go to the grocery store with intent to, be on this sort of diet, or, to cook for this type of family, or, this or that. It's like you buy the things that make sense for your situation, and you don't buy the things that don't.
Yeah.
You don't buy 99% of the grocery store. You only buy about 1% of it.
Yeah, I definitely didn't say that, but we'll give me credit. I 100% said that.
That's funny.
Yeah, so
That's-
I'm pretty educated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Learn a
feel
thing learn a thing or two. I can't talk now.
Maybe it was Anthony.
Yeah.
You know what?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I actually want to give him credit now.
Let's Anthony. No. Anyways, but going back to like just hopping in it, I do think there is a point where you really just have to take like messy action and just fully
Mhm.
immerse yourselves in something.
Yeah.
But at some point, you definitely have to have a plan.
Yeah.
Because if not, you're just repeating the same mistakes over and over again, and you're not necessarily learning and taking away. And I think that's definitely been the phase that I personally have been in. It's like making a lot of mistakes and learning, and then actually coming up with a game plan and actual like quote unquote business plan.
Right.
Because those it's kind of like acts as like your guideline in a way. And it's like, hey, you do this, you don't do this, you do this.
Right.
Because if not, you're just here and you're there, and there's no consistency with it. So like that's kind of been the phase that I'm in. Is like at some point, you just have to dive in it, but at some point as well, you have to make a plan and you have to execute that plan.
Well, and I think part of that plan too is like maintaining focus, right? Because I think one of the things that we see just in business in general that always like, I don't want to say frustrates me, because I understand where they're coming from, but there's also a phase of it where you're just like some people are just maybe missing the plan aspect of this. And I think like, so, it's like having a movie theater. Maybe the movie theater is a little bit older, and it's like, so you're like, okay, cool. I want more people to come to my movie theater. I should start adding more things. I'm going to build in a restaurant. I'm going to build in, this. I'm going to build in a bar in there. I'm going to build in like all these different things that I think are going to bring people in. And then the whole time you have uncomfortable seats.
Mhm.
It's like, no, just fix your seats. Like instead of expending all this money on adding extra businesses to your business, like apply that money. Sorry to anybody who owns a movie theater, but who's done that, I don't know. But like take that money when it's like you get so into these other realms that you forget about who you are at your core. And I think that's part of what you're talking about with the plan. Is it's like, realize that it's like, instead of adding these other things that are another business that you are hoping are going to be successful, it's like at your core, are you the best at this one thing? Are you trying to be the best at this one thing? And I think that you can't be the best movie theater in town if you have uncomfortable seats. Like if you have one like flaw that is like paramount to everything, and it's like, but you're not even seeing it because you're so focused and so spread thin amongst all of these other thoughts and projects. It's like at some point, like you have to have this plan, or else you can fall into that easily.
I mean, yeah, it's a learning curve, man.
Right. Well, like I was saying, then you're what? You're the second best movie theater. You're the second best restaurant. You're the second best.
Well,
bar.
then you're honestly just not making progress.
You're not anything. You're
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
nobody at that
And
point.
then
Like,
it's just extremely, you're unhappy.
right. Because
Yeah.
I would rather go to my favorite restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
grab a drink at my favorite place, and then go to a movie theater with comfortable seats. And it's
Right.
like, it's one of those things where it's like, you think you're going to get me for all three, but if the reason why I'm coming here in general isn't good enough, well, then it's like, well, then this all falls apart. Like you
Mhm.
have to make sure that you're doing those
I
things.
think people don't realize too that when you take on other ventures like that, that is a whole nother realm of different problems. There's a
Mhm.
whole nother business essentially
Yeah.
that you're not adding to your current business. You're just starting a new one.
Yeah. Right. And you're just putting it on the same roof and hope they both work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
and-
I think Alfonso's done a really good job. Like I know, like I think a good example is instead of starting some subsidiary of Let's Work, you spend the time and the effort and the money on doing things like changing the tags on your apparel
Mhm.
to say Let's Work, your
Mhm.
brand, as opposed to anything else. So the entire piece of clothing
Right.
looks like a Let's Work piece of apparel.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
that's definitely been like one huge step. Even like I have a tag sewn onto the bottom of this t-shirt, and it's just
Ooh.
like it adds a lot more value, I feel like, to the t-shirt. It's like, okay, how can I make this blank the best blank ever, and how does it
Right.
feel like it's mine?
Right. Instead of making Let's Work candy bars, you've
Mhm.
started putting tags on your product to make it better,
Right.
to make it the best
Mhm.
apparel
And like
brand.
this, it costs an extra $2 or $3.
Yeah.
And
And it's
like,
a lot.
yeah, and like that eats definitely at your margins, but at the same time, it's like, how can I make this better?
Mm-hmm.
Because whenever you put this on, I want you to feel like you own it.
Right.
Like this
yeah.
is your t-shirt and it's no one else's.
Right. You want to see the Let's Work on the back of it. You
Mhm.
want to see it on the tag. You want to see it on the. It's all of those things. I think it's a perfect analogy for what we're talking about. Instead of you going off and making Let's Work, who knows what, like again, candy bars, like, you're focusing on what you're trying to do.
Mhm.
Yeah, what's one thing that you've been suggested or even you've thought of
Mm.
like a side company to Let's Work? Is there anything that's like come across your mind as
Not really, man, because like I don't know, it's weird because like you get into like this game of like, oh, I can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, you can do anything. Like you can technically open a gym. You can start a supplement company.
Sure.
You can do all these different things, but it's like, well, one, what do I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Two, what am I currently doing and how can I do it better? And it's like I do believe within the journey there's moments where you make jumps into new ventures. But it's like I'm not there yet, and I'm also trying to become the best at this space because
Right.
in Oklahoma no one technically is. And it's like I want to be the best here. And
Yep.
if I can be the best here, then I know I can be the best in Texas and then Kansas and then New York and then California.
That's a great way to look at it. Is
Yeah.
I'm not even the best in my realm yet, and I even look at
Right.
Try It as the same way. It's like we're not the best in Oklahoma yet.
Mhm.
I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons that we could even look at that and say that, but like, man, I think we haven't even reached close to our potential here yet.
There's still people in Norman that don't know who you are.
Amen.
Exactly. And we have
Yeah.
a store there. Not to mention all the areas we don't even have a store.
Yeah.
How
Mhm.
much more potential do we have in just OKC?
Yeah.
And so why would we put a store in Texas? Why would we
Yeah.
put a store in Tulsa?
Right. We're not the, well, exactly like at Oklahoma City, but then as you're even saying, like expanding is, it's like currently we are not the best supplement store in Ardmore
True.
because we're not in Ardmore.
It's
Right.
true.
It's like, so how can we, like starting to pass things on to like new places and stuff. And it's like, we've got to be, I think that's a really good one because, like we hear a lot and I totally understand why. And like, I think it's something that, eventually would be something that we definitely want to do, but it is the move to another city, another, like a more distant city,
Mhm.
and it's like, we got to be the best here first.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like
And
we
you-
got to be.
and that'll be a natural evolution, but
Right.
you're just not there yet.
Right.
And it's like people are like, all right, you want it to be worldwide. And it's like, yeah, I would love my brand
Right.
to be worldwide. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not there yet. Let me
Right.
make this problem as small as I can and
Yeah.
just shake the person that's in front of me's hand
Right.
and go from there.
Mm.
Right. Yeah, someone says, like we'll hear this one, and I get again, I want to say like I get where people are coming from, but they're like, oh, you guys should open a Try It in Dallas. Brother, we barely understand Oklahoma City well
It's like,
enough.
have you been to Dallas?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't run Oklahoma City quite like you think we do yet.
Yeah.
So-
I get overwhelmed just going to Texas.
Amen. I was just there yesterday.
Jeez, man.
But yeah, it's like, we appreciate your, your belief in us 1,000%. Like that's obviously, hopefully that's where you're coming from. But it's like, but yeah, I mean, like we haven't even, we definitely don't feel like we've conquered this yet, let alone, something like that magnitude.
Right. And I think another thing as well, kind of talking about my t-shirt, is like, oh, you have something to say?
I was just gonna say, like, kind of piggybacking off all this is, I was working a shift in Norman yesterday, and a kid came in first time ever in. He's like, gives me his address, and it's Edmond. I'm like, oh, have you ever shopped at their store? And he's like, oh no, I've done. This is the first time I've ever been in. First one I've ever heard of.
Whoa.
So this is a
yeah.
kid in Edmond who just
Yeah.
moved to Norman for college and just looked at supplement stores, and we were the first one that came up for Norman.
Yeah.
People in Edmond that haven't ever heard
That's
of
right.
us.
Eat
And
dirt,
that's-
Quail Springs, go Norman.
You see, and that's crazy though, because like you guys have grown so much, but it's like there's still opportunity, man.
Still.
Yeah. That is a crazy thing
Yeah.
though, because it's like I've asked people that before too. Like honestly, I've had situations like that as well. It's like somebody will tell me their address and they'll be like, "Oh, it's like Edmond," and I'll be like, "Oh, nice. You ever shop at our Quail Springs store?" And like, nope. We literally had a guy who lived in Edmond who was driving to Norman to see us. I was like, brother,
Let
I've
me
got
t-
great
let me
news
tell
for
you,
you.
let me tell you something, man.
You
That's
know?
that's a commute, bro.
Yeah, I've got great news for you.
Don't be doing that.
You know where the Quail Springs Mall is? He's like, yeah, I live close to there. It's like, wow. I really
You're
appreciate you
gonna
coming down here.
you're gonna
but-
hate me and love me at the
yeah,
same
but
time.
please just go there, man. It's bigger. Like, it's good. But yeah, I think that's also real quick. Shout out Ryan. That was Ryan's. That might have been his first interjection that we didn't force on him.
That's true.
Round
That was a
up.
great one. Yeah.
That was a good
Thanks.
Ryan, the longest
Yeah.
interjection we've had from him
Yeah.
too. That was great. Very solid.
Yeah, he's in his triad polo and everything. He's ready to work.
Yeah. Let's work.
But something that I wanted to say is like, as well as like improving the quality of like my t-shirts, it's
Mhm.
like I also don't have a lot of money to put in the marketing. Like a lot of things is very self-funded. I am a small business. It's like if I make a mistake on 50 shirts, it's like who has to eat that?
Yeah.
And it's like I have to eat that. So the first time someone gets a t-shirt, even like the shipping experience, I want it to be where like, hey, I'm not putting a lot of money in necessarily in the marketing, but like the quality gets them coming back.
Mhm.
The customer service gets them coming back.
Right.
Because like I'm just not at that level yet. So I have to do the things that I know I can do in order to create like a loyal customer that will buy on every release.
Well,
Yeah.
the marketing doesn't even make sense if you don't have the quality. The quality is your foundation. So
Mhm.
yeah, you have to get that. And like how much money goes into that? Like when we talked about like the tags,
Mhm.
spending extra money on that. I know you've put effort into, and I don't know what it looks like right now, but having more regular inventory, because when you started, you were just doing drops of
Mhm.
like invest in one drop,
Mhm.
sell it all,
Mhm.
and then make that money back and then put it in another drop. Are you
Mhm.
doing like investing more in inventory?
So I was, but I've actually started to pull back, and that was
Mhm.
mostly because of the quality. Because I was hand making a lot of t-shirts in the sense that I have a heat press, which was honestly really good for me to do because it taught me a lot of how to like make my own t-shirts and the
Mhm.
heat press and the transfers and like all these different small things that I didn't know about apparel and like the fabric.
Yeah.
And you have to have like a certain thing so that way it actually like transfers on. So I've actually started to get away from that and just focus mostly on like, hey, if I get this made through the people that I personally know, like there's going to be a size tag, I can get a hem tag, I can get more of like a better quality in a way.
Yeah.
It's-
Again, it's the uncomfortable
Yeah.
movie theater chair.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If you have an uncomfortable chair, like then you're starting to put all this money into advertising and all these things, and you're well hold on now, like we got to fix this first.
Yeah, because it's also like, yeah, I'm making money, but am I proud of my product?
Mm,
And if you aren't proud of your product, and if you aren't like, this is the best product ever, like
yeah,
you should 100% buy it. It's like, I wear my heart on my sleeve and I just
Yeah.
can't do that, you know?
Not to mention your best marketing is word of mouth. So if
Mhm.
people have a good experience with purchasing your products, they'll tell
Mhm.
your friends.
Exactly.
and this is a really interesting point because I know we've talked about it. I know Anthony and I have talked about it because he has the shirts for his book title and stuff.
Mhm.
And then I had a small run of like a little bit of jujitsu gear that I was putting out. And to be 100% honest, the thing that really deterred me and kind of kept me from pursuing that further was the absolute garbage quality that I would get sent to me. I would spend all of this money to get samples made, to like have all this stuff. I'd have the design. I'd like it. I like how everything looked. It'd come in and it'd be atrocious. It'd be
Mm.
absolutely, and I was trying like different people. I was trying different manufacturers. I was trying all these things. And I was like, the barrier to entry to this is huge. You don't just find all the time this like super high quality thing exactly like you want, it's like, you'd order one pair of sweatpants or something like that and they'd fit great. And then like you'd order another pair and this size, like you'd be like, they put the wrong size tag in this. Like these are XLs and they don't even go past my ankles, like what is happening here? And it's like, and then you get these hoodies that were terrible and shirts that are terrible. And it's like, you realize like how much more of finding stuff as quality as yours. And I own plenty of Let's Work stuff is like that it is more diamond in the rough than it is like universal.
Yeah. and I spend a lot of money on samples.
Yeah.
Like
and
probably a little too much, but like it has to be done because I have to feel it and look.
Mhm.
I have to have it before I print on it.
and that's the thing is like you don't realize until you have it that you're just
Mhm.
like, oh no, this will never work. Like I that happened with me. I was gonna do some rash guards and like some like a hoodie and some like sweatpants and stuff. And I was just trying samples because you get them for like a decent cost, but they're still typically printed on whatever or sewn on like hemmed on whatever. You're typically looking even at samples like $20+, like depending upon what your product is.
And that cost adds up.
Oh man, does it ever? And it's like one of the things that literally was my deterrent was I spent $60 on 3 different pair of sweatpants and hated all 3 of them, and I was like, I don't want to keep wasting, like I felt like at the time, and this was just because, and this was when I realized that I wasn't passionate enough about it and wasn't willing to dive fully into this, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this then. And so for me, that was like where I kind of realized, I was like, oh, like it's not your first pair of sweatpants you order with your brand on it that works. It can be your 12th pair of sweatpants that you order, or your 19th shirt. And then you start talking about wanting to do different designs and keep things fresh. So now you're looking at like another different kind of shirt, a different cut of shirt. I know you did some like oversized shirts, and now you're looking at some like,
those oversized shirts were dope.
they were my favorite shirt you've ever made.
Yeah.
But it's like you're doing oversized shirts, and then you're doing tie-dye shirts and all this stuff. And it's like you were saying though, it's like, oh, I like this. And now it's like, oh, you find one you like. It's like, oh, by the way, we're out of stock on 9 of the 10 color schemes that we offer.
I mean, even on the overstock one, I actually had a lot more different color schemes made. They were just out of stock.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, well, it also kind of sucks because like I try to be a limited release company in the sense of like I release something and that's it. So I can't just kind of like come out of left field and be like, hey, here's 4 more colorways.
Yeah.
Because like it kind of messes with like the marketing and the scheduling and like how I try to have social media look. So it's just like it's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
So you mentioned when something gets messed up, you have to eat the cost of certain things, you know, all depending how it turns out. Do you have any nightmare stories that you're willing to share?
He had to eat shirts. Literally. He couldn't afford food. So he's just eating shirts.
Really, man, the biggest mistake, and like I'm just gonna be very truthful here. Whenever I left here, I didn't necessarily have a plan. I was just kind of like, yeah, man, opportunity, seize the day, whatever. So like my next release, I didn't necessarily plan correctly. I was just kind of like, you know, sure, I'm gonna be Alfonso the entrepreneur with no game plan. And I put a lot of money into a release, and it was the most amount of money I've ever put in. And it was like, it did well, but only half of it sold. And it's like, well, I paid for it, but now I'm down by half. And it's like, I have to find a way now how to remake this money. And like that's been, and obviously it's my fault because I released a ton of hoodies at once, and then I did another run of hoodies that were different, which were fine and they did well, but they didn't do as good as they should have because I didn't have a plan.
No.
You know, I was new to the apparel business, and I was like, oh, you can release hoodies whenever. And it's like, hey man, if you release a hoodie once, like just roll with it, let it sell, stick with it, and then go on to the next thing. Because if not, you're going to have a lot of stock that's just sitting there. And if you lose that hype, like it's pretty much over with.
Did that inventory eventually sell, or did you find some?
It did eventually sell, but like it not selling at once will definitely make you, especially when you sell out a lot and you don't sell out, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
It's like,
people could even look at that as like, oh, this wasn't as popular. Maybe it's not as good.
Exactly.
Like,
so
no, I just ordered too much inventory.
Yeah. It's just kind of like, but you know, making that mistake, it made me realize like, hey, you have to be diligent with your cash flow because like you don't have a lot.
Yeah.
You know, like you have to be mindful of where you put your money and how much money you're putting in. Because if not, man, if you miss on a release, it's like, well, there's $1,500 that's just going to sit there.
Yeah.
You know, if you didn't do a good job at marketing, if you didn't do a good job at storytelling, like that could really hurt you.
Yeah.
So like that's really been my only hiccup. And honestly, since that, I've just kind of been like a lot more mindful of how I plan or how I do things. I don't know whose mic that is, but
you know, I think it's an interesting thing because that's even something that we've dealt with when it comes to hoodies and like winter apparel. Is it's like whenever we do stuff, it's like we try to make sure that we're not over ordering or doing too many releases of it. And that's one of the things that people ask for a lot is they're like, oh, like would love a try-it hoodie, want a try-it hoodie, and like, oh, I want like a try-it sweater, and you're like, okay, cool. And then it's like we order them, and then it's like we sell half of them, and then half of them sit there in perpetuity.
Yeah, because it's a lot different when you order too much of a protein. It's like, hey, someone's going to come in and buy this every 30 days. But like, how many times is people going to buy a t-shirt, like the same t-shirt? Yeah. It's like you have to find a new customer. They have to tell a friend. You have to do something that is requiring you to get creative.
I know it's something that we work with or see a lot at Triad. Like when we release like new t-shirts or just new clothing, we do, you know, just a little bit, you know, here and there, like once a month we'll do a new release, but we have to plan out like on our end, the inventory to be about perfect to last about a week, because it's like the first day we're going to sell a lot. The second day we're going to sell a lot. The third day we're going to sell a little bit less. Fourth day, not nearly as much. After a week, after we have it, we're selling maybe 1 or 2 a day. And it's like, if you over order by 100, you're stuck with 100 for a year.
Yeah.
And that's money and inventory, man.
Yeah, it's just gonna sit.
Yeah.
Because even I remember when we started the t-shirt thing for Triad, like that being a continuous thing, like we were nervous to have X amount overstock because like we didn't have a lot of money. So like we needed to sell t-shirts or like get rid of them or do something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fun times.
That's
It
great.
was fun times.
But yeah, I mean that's it. Like people don't realize that, dude. They just sit. They sit
Yeah.
and sit and sit and sit. And it's like, sure, it's cool. And every once in a while, I had a guy like come in the other day and buy a Triad sweater, and I was like, oh, yeah, I don't remember the last time I sold one of these. Like it's been a while, you know. And they were cool, like they're crew neck sweaters.
Did
and
you know it was August?
didn't ask.
Don't tell.
Like,
Please
yeah,
turn that.
Please
sale.
buy it.
Yeah,
Please buy
if
it.
you're listening to this, it is not August, sir.
That's funny.
No, it's definitely crazy. Do you have any plans, you know, and of, you know, maybe looking are you wanting to stay kind of this like small amount, like kind of go through it, move on to the next thing, or is this something that you want to maybe even be in more of a retail space, or is this more of just like kind of continuing down the model that you've had?
Long term, I will say I would love to have my own retail space.
Yeah.
Like a small little pop-up shop.
Mm.
I just think that's like super dope. And obviously like with my retail experience, like I know I can add a really good twist to it.
Yeah.
Even if like I have a warehouse and like there's a small retail space out front, I think that would be really cool to
Yeah.
have.
I like that.
Yeah,
I
but-
think jerky.com did that. They
Mhm.
did they took one of their warehouse spaces and just turned part of it into a retail space. So it's like,
Yeah.
if we see some customers, great. If not, we're already paying for the space.
Yeah.
Cool. Might as well make the most of it. So like long term, I would definitely, it would be something very small. Obviously I don't know if not thinking big enough because like having a lot of retail space,
Yeah.
it's a lot of work, man.
No, it definitely
Um,
is.
But I also think long term, I would really love to dabble more into athletic apparel
Mm.
in the sense of like shorts, joggers, women's apparel, and really getting behind the brand and like the mission,
Mhm.
and really promoting Let's Work in the sense of the way that I truly want to. It's just about getting there though,
Yeah.
especially with cash flow and having to manage it properly. Because it's like whenever you start working with overseas manufacturers, you got to put a big amount of money up front.
Mhm. Yes, we're talking
And it's
about.
like you won't see that money for months on end. So like if you don't have money to keep up with that, like you're gonna be in trouble.
Mhm.
So it's about getting to that point, executing it. And I also think like something I need to get back into doing is like I have to start competing again. I have to start showcasing my face again.
Hmm.
Because I kind of got away from that a little bit. But I have to start doing that in order to gain, I guess you could say, the following in order for me to like have these bigger influencers as well to help me promote the brand even more. Because whenever it's just you promoting the brand, there's only so much bandwidth that you have. But if you have a little bit of a larger following, then you're able to get someone else and you're also able to pay them as well.
Mhm.
It allows you to move in a different direction and audience.
People these days really like to see the face behind the brand too.
Yeah.
I know you were you talked about it a little bit on your guys' podcast, but you were starting a prep and decided to pull back on that. What's the mindset there?
Dude, honestly, I felt like I was forcing myself.
Okay.
I just, one, I knew I wasn't ready. Two, I felt like I was trying to be this influencer that I just didn't want to be. I operate best when I can just be myself, whether I'm in prep
Us
or
too.
not.
That's
And
how
I just felt like I was forcing myself to be someone that I wasn't. And I just don't like that. I understand there's certain things that you have to do that you don't want to. But at some point, man, when it just kind of eats at you and you're putting on this fake like personality,
Mhm.
I just felt like I was doing that. And I was like, dude, the time just isn't now. Let me pull back. Let me refocus. Let me figure out who I am and who I'm not. And then let me start attacking again. And
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I'm getting out of that phase where it's like, hey, okay, I know what I want. I know what I need to do. I know how to execute it. Let's run with it and let's go do it.
Yeah, I respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were doing it for the wrong reasons. It sounds like.
Yeah, man. And it's just like competing is fun. It's great. But like, I truly don't have any desire to be like an Olympia or like this fitness influencer and just known for that. Because like that's just not me. Like
Mhm.
something a lot of people are doing within the fitness space is just like reels, and like that's cool and all, but like there's a lot more to Alfonso Lopez than just making motivational reels.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's what gives you the opportunity to be unique, though.
Yeah, man, and I felt like I was losing that, and I
Mhm.
didn't want that.
Yeah.
And I also think my motives were just wrong, and the approach that I was taking is really wrong as well. So I just I had to be honest with myself and be like, hey, dude, like you're doing this for the wrong reasons. Take a step back because I had a lot of success my first prep with like promoting my brand and stuff. And it's like, I got 4th place. Like, do people really care about your placing? It's like, maybe to an extent, and I definitely do as well.
Yeah.
But it's like,
I see your point though.
it's just like, get back to why you started doing this in the first place. It's not necessarily about a placing, or it's about inspiring people and motivating and kind of being a shining light.
Do you think that you will step on stage again?
I will. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I will more than likely next year.
Nice.
Just because, one, I also think that I mentally need it, because I need that thing that I fully immerse myself in. That like, it just gives me that rabbit to chase, because I do best whenever I physically just like exerting myself at a high amount.
Yeah, I understand that. Kind of going back a little bit, I'm just curious with your thought process on, like the retail space, because I'm not sure if you know this, but brick and mortar retail is dead, and there's no future in that.
That's for people that suck. Dude, God, I don't get started on that, man. Dude, we have people that say that stuff, man. I'm like, dude, you're just doing it wrong. That's the problem. And you're not doing it long enough.
Amen.
Because like, you guys are a testimony to playing the long game. You can play the long game, man. You treat people with respect, and you shake every customer's hand, and you do the right thing, and you actually help them. Like, you can make it happen. Because people think retail's dead and it's just strictly online, and it's like, no, man, like, it's definitely not.
1000%. Well, this is something that I've heard from, it's never customers that say anything like this. It's always like,
it's always people who aren't doing it.
Yeah, it's always somebody who wants to kind of, try to give you a little bit of a gut check or something sometimes, just to be rude for whatever. But I love the, this is something that we talk about all the time. But yeah, man, no, like, while there is some like added convenience to online shopping, and those things are, sure, added and great. Like, the reality, I will fully die on the hill of that. Like, people actually want to go into places. People actually want to see people.
People are craving it.
People want to see items. They want to talk to people, they want to touch, they want to hold, they want to feel, and this is
gratification too.
Exactly. And it's one of those things, man, where like, what actually drives online sales, I fully believe, more than anything else in the world, is the bullshit that people put up with whenever they go into most retail locations. Like, that's the problem. People talk about, I think, the supplement industry. I will use that as like the analogy for this anyway, because it's perfect, is that the reason why so many supplement sales went online is because everyone hated going to a supplement store.
The standard for supplement stores is to run on commission and push hard.
Yeah, it's to make this the worst possible. It's like a good place. It's such a funny thing, but like, I remember shopping at the Buckle in high school. You guys ever shop at the Buckle before?
You were that guy.
No, Ryan's been to the Buckle, I bet. Yeah, Ryan's a Buckle guy.
I would never step in there.
This is like,
I would step in there for one thing, and that's Saks underwear.
Good luck, man. So this is before that. But I remember one time I went into the Buckle, and I think I was looking for pants or whatever, but it was like, the lady was like, "Oh, like, what size are you?" And I was like, at the time I'm like, like a 32 or whatever. And I was like, and she was like, "Oh, okay, we'll try these on." And I'm like, "Okay." And she like grabs him, she like shoves me over to like a dressing room, and like, I kid you not, she started throwing jeans over the door, like into the dressing room, like just throwing them at me. And I'm like, she just kept doing it. And it's like, I had a friend at the time who worked there, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that was like, part of their training is like, oh, like, they literally, as soon as they get your pant size, like, they just start bombarding you with stuff." And it's like, this is why people don't want to come here. This is why people, especially when it comes to like clothes, and I fully believe supplements, especially with the things that we offer when it comes to like getting to taste products at times, or like getting to touch and feel and compare within a single category. Like, we have people all the time who like, maybe they like 3 products from a brand, but like one, maybe they don't like their isolate protein very much, and it's like, well, now you're just kind of shooting from the hip on guessing what kind of isolate protein you want to get now. And now it's like, well, no, you come in here and I'm going to show you 9 different brands of isolate proteins, like 20 different brands of isolate proteins, to be more honest. And it's like, you can look, touch, compare, feel, taste in a lot of situations to kind of tell. And it's like, I know a personal example that I had too, and I know Kevin's heard this story a couple times, but it's like, this is the reason why people think that retail is dead. Was I was looking for a part, as it was when we were having some problems with the Wi-Fi down in Norman, and I was looking for just it's called a PoE adapter, but it's essentially like a power cord. It's just like a power over Ethernet. I'm just trying to get power to our like router at this point, right? And it's like, I'm looking for like an injector, and it's like, it's legitimately a $9 to $12 part on like Amazon, right? But it's like, I'm already in Norman. I want to get this done today. Like, I'm just going to go find one, right? And so, I go to the store, and I'm kind of like looking around, and keep in mind, there is no one in this store besides workers. Maybe there's a couple people that are kind of around. And so I'm kind of in the electronics section, like near where the routers and, all of these access points are. And lady comes over to me and starts talking to me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm looking for this specific part, and she's like, I'll be honest, I'm not really sure what that is. And I'm like, that's fine. It's kind of an obscure thing. It's not like the most common thing that people need when it comes to their Wi-Fi stuff. She's like, well, let me grab my manager. This manager comes over. This kid's, 22 years old, something, right? And I start to explain to him what I need. And he starts to tell me, and I know for a fact that this is what I need, right? Keep in mind, $9 to $12 part, $12, we'll say for the high end. And, he's explaining to me that that's just not what I need. And I'm like, no, it is what I need. Like, I just need this injector. Like, this is all I'm looking for. And then he proceeds to take me around the aisle to the access point, like mesh systems, and starts talking to me about this $799 6 or 7 access point system that covers like an entire office building. Like, it's like for 7 to 10,000 square feet. And I'm like, listen, champ, like I have 1,000 square foot store and I need to run a TV and a POS system and maybe a laptop. And I'm like, I do not need. And he goes, well, you could just use one of them. And I'm like, okay, no. Again, I need a $12 part, not $800 worth of Wi-Fi equipment. And he's like, oh, well, if you have a small, well, then you just need this 4 access point system that's $499. And I'm like, dude, you are not understanding like what I'm getting at here. Like, this is not what I need. And this is the thing that's so funny because it frustrated me so much. The lady who originally talked to me came up to me on like with her cell phone in her hand, and she was like, oh, hey, Office Depot down the road has one of these. It's $11.99. It says they have it in stock there. And I was like, thank you so much. That was the help that I needed. Like, you guys don't even carry them. So like, tell me the help that I need and I will come back to you. Next time I come in, I will be happy to shop at your business. And so I start to walk away. And I don't publicly display being an asshole all the time, but this was definitely one of those situations. Because as I walk away, I hear this manager talking to his employee saying, why would you do that? I almost had him. I have not lost my shit inside of like a location of a place so bad in a while. I was like, do you not understand that? Look around, Sonny. Look around, champ. You notice how there's no customers in here? That attitude that you just showed me is the exact reason why you have no customers and I will not be back. I understand this is not your business and you could probably care less at this point, but like, I promise you that like, if I owned this business, like, you would not be a part of it. And the fact that you were demeaning your employee for genuinely trying to help me, I was like, this is the bullshit of why everyone wants to shop online. This is why your business that you work in and the industry you work in is dying from a retail space and is strictly almost an all online business. And I'm like, this is just like, this is why people want to do it. And it's like, if you can just genuinely give someone a good experience, like they want that. They want the personal connection. They want the human to human connection. And like the same thing happens to us. People come in all the time. I can't tell you how many times I hear, oh, do you guys have Ghost? And I'll be like, oh man, like we've got their energy drinks, but like, unfortunately they do have some exclusivity stuff. Is there a specific product that you're looking at? Either I can help you find something similar, and they'll be like, oh, I'm looking for the pre-workout. And I'll actually pull up the pre-workout and start like comparing, and I'll say like, look, this is the closest thing that I have. But man, I totally understand if you were just in the market for that Ghost stuff. And it's like, I know that they have it a quarter mile down the road at GNC. I can't tell you how many times I have called that GNC and asked them to hold a product for one of our customers, because it's not about the sale today. If these people get so caught up in the sale today and not just being a good business and not just like helping people to their fullest. And it's like, I've gained more loyal customers by sending them to other supplement stores than for something that I literally can't sell you. I can't have this right now. Or we'll get some obscure vitamin or something, and we have a good relationship with Dodson's, which is a health food store in Norman, and I will send people, I've called Dodson's once a month probably, and send hey, can you hold, somebody's looking for Irish sea moss or something, you know what I mean? Like something kind of obscure or whatever. And it's like, Yeah. And they're like, oh, yeah, great. And it's like that customer at that point realizes what I'm here to do, and that's to help them. And it's like, if we had more of that and less bullshit that people deal with, like I was dealing with at the electronics store, is it's like retail would look completely different right now.
Well, I mean, if you were to treat that person that came in for the ghost the same way that the manager at Best Buy treated you, those people aren't going to buy anything today. Maybe they'll buy something today if they're like intimidated enough, but they're not going to come back.
Never.
But if you actually take the time and help that, just do whatever it is that helps them the most. Sometimes that's helping them find a product from some other place other than Triad.
Absolutely.
If you do that, you've at least got a chance that they'll come back.
Right.
Where if you just had that lady at Best Buy that was, found that part for it at us.
I didn't say it was Best Buy.
I did. But if you had that lady, if you just had her helping you, you'd probably go back
1,000%.
So
when I needed something literally 2 days later, when it came to the Wi-Fi system, I don't even remember what it was, but I needed something 2 days later. And I needed it that day. I went to Office Depot. And here's the thing. Office Depot didn't do anything to earn my business. Best Buy lost my business.
Yeah.
And it's like, I would have been in there 2 days later buying, it was $50 or something, whatever it is. But it's like, you would have had me, especially if it wasn't for the manager that was there at the time. If it was just that base level employee, I would have absolutely been back to spend more money. But this person who's supposed to be setting the example, the manager of this department, is the person who made me go like, oh, okay, cool. Like, you're never getting myself or like the business I work for's money as long as I have anything to do with it. Because like that was such a poor example of customer service, where you showed that you clearly you did not give a shit about me in the slightest, or what I needed or what I was trying to do. You were just trying to make a buck and hope that I didn't know. You heard that it was for a business and you thought, oh, this kid's got a business credit card or whatever. Like, he's just going to spend whatever. And it's like, you tried to take advantage. And it's like, brother, I was not approved for more than $12.
That business credit card hits different. That's why.
But it's like, this is why it is this way. It is like, why are most electronics and parts and things like that sold online anymore?
Well, I also don't think people understand it's also online as well. And like, it's shifting more to, if you have shitty customer service online as well, like that's going to bite you. If it takes you 4 days to ship a product, like you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, obviously there's times where customers will understand, but if you're one of those customers or companies that don't answer customer emails or like, the chat box or something like that, man, after like 2 days, like, dude, it's going to come to get you. And that's how you lose customers, because word of mouth spreads just as even faster online than it does in person. Right. And I think people tend to forget about that as well when they start an online business. It's like, yeah, it's cool and all, but if you have shitty customer service and you're not shipping products, like, dude, you are screwed.
You're done.
And you don't even know.
That's interesting, man. There's more customer service to an online business than most people, even myself, would realize.
And I think another trick to it as well is how can you make online customer service as personable as possible?
That's tough,
because it's easy to do it in person, right? You
Yeah.
shake someone's hand, you look them in the eyes,
See the body language.
do everything you need to do. But something like I started to really implement recently is like, I'll send voice messages instead of like text on customer service, like response or emails, whereas for Pride Foods or my own, because like I want people to know that like I'm a normal person, just
hear your
like
inflection,
you. Like, I don't need you to like scream at me through this text box. I need us to talk like normal humans, so we can get this situated and I can get you on with your day and I can get on with mine. Because it's also like, dude, I don't like the screaming through a chat box as well. It's kind of annoying.
Have you done that with anybody that's been angry or upset?
I have, man, because like it really just it brings things back down to that human level.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, I'm a human. There was a mistake. I can get it fixed. Like, what do we need to do? Obviously, you have those customers that like they don't want to work with you, and it's
people are a lot less comfortable actually screaming at you as opposed to just typing
right.
something.
I mean,
out.
there's even times where I'll just hand out my number and I'm like, hey, just call me. Like, we can get this situated, because that's probably the hardest thing with online is like, you want to have as much contact with your customers as possible. And if you don't, you start to lose that niche. Like, you want them to follow you on social media. You want to build a friendship. You want to see what they do on the weekends. Like, you want to have that rapport with them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's really interesting too, because like you said, like that, I feel like sending that voice memo is like, we all know how like easily misinterpreted texts and things can be, because you don't have the
Mhm.
tone, you don't have the inflection, something can come across much ruder than you mean it to. But it's like, by you doing, that's a really interesting thing that I've not thought about, but it's like, by doing that, you can show them like, this is my inflection, this is my tone, this is how I'm trying to handle this. You can
Mhm.
hear the remorse, or the,
Yeah.
that I'm not happy about this either, and I'm terribly sorry. You can hear that I'm actually sorry about this situation, and I can
Mhm.
hopefully fix it. And it's like, that's a smart move for
Because
sure.
I also think people are in this mindset where it's like, oh, it's the internet, and people are just like controlled by bots or someone overseas, and it's like, no, man, I'm the dude at the warehouse that's packing your orders, so like I can help you.
Just
like,
me, just Alfonso.
Yeah, literally. It's
Please,
like-
hey, anybody out there being mean to Alfonso, you don't let him down like that.
Thomas and I will come find you.
He has your address.
I appreciate that.
That's
I sure
true.
do.
Yeah, you let us know.
I
We'll
can
Yeah.
Google Map that.
That's
Thomas
right.
and I are buying plane tickets and going to come find you.
How long does this take to
What
get
is-
there?
What is that? What is the there's a movie that they do that. What is it? I forget. Jay and Silent Bob. It's like a funny movie, but they make a movie in the end of Jay and Silent Bob, and then what they do is they get all the negative reviews that people have about it, and then they spend all of the money they made on the movie flying to all the different people's houses and beating them up that wrote negative reviews on the movie.
Down.
Writing negative reviews is also just another wild thing. It's one thing to write one if it truly is like the company just sucks. It's another thing to write one if you're just writing it just to write it.
Oh yeah, we've never experienced anything like that, Kevin.
Dude, Alfonso, you're hitting on topics that we've got stories for.
Whoa. Who did it?
He did well in the prep.
Huh?
What? He did, yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Wait, what?
I said you did well in the prep, like we prepped you for this.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But yeah, you've just happened to.
Well, you gave me the hand signal.
Yeah.
It was like this.
Yeah, I know we're getting pretty far into this podcast, but yeah, we at Triad have gosh, I think we've had one bad review in the last 7 years
Mhm.
that looked like it was just like
It
some
didn't
weird
make
automated
much
one.
sense. It just seemed like, I don't know what it was. It just wasn't overly verbal.
Yeah, like anyone that actually read it was like, this doesn't even look like an actual person.
Yeah,
or
it
like
was
they
very
don't.
strange.
It's like they like even said like, I've never even been here.
Yeah.
Like so, but we got our first real one. Not our first real one, but our first real 7.
7.
Yeah, our first real. Sorry, so what he's saying is our first real negative review, and this person decided to then go ahead and make 6 additional accounts and rate us 1 star, a total of 7
Dude,
times.
people like that, man, they're just doing that because they're unhappy with themselves. It's
It-
like, dude, you don't do that.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Yeah, I don't know how much detail we want to go into this, but essentially the whole review was towards one employee that it was not their fault at all, and it was very clear, and I think even clear to even customers that would read it. But
They kind of even, to be honest, they kind of admitted they kind of had their own problems, and
they did.
we don't necessarily have to get too far into that, but it just like goes to show, like, how far people will try to go for sometimes like reasons that just like don't make any sense.
The entire review is written not even off the interaction that this customer had with the employee. It was written off of eavesdropping off of other interactions.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah. That one you're just kind of like, come on, man.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
why would you take time out of your day to do that?
Yeah. And
Like, it's just
to do it
insane.
7 times. It's
Yeah, 7
crazy.
different accounts. We got
Mhm.
some of them removed, but yeah, dude, that was I was not able to not take that personally.
Yeah.
Like,
Dude,
how
it's
much
hard
work-
not to, man.
Dude, how much work we've not even just myself,
Mm.
but everybody's put in this business, and for you to come in one time
Mhm.
and make assumptions and go out of your way to not just like write a bad review. If you truly think you had a
Sure.
bad experience, okay, write 1.
Mhm.
But to cheat the system and write 7 of them, it's like,
It's like-
dude, that's where I think I finally accepted that, you hear constantly, life's not fair. That was my true coming to terms with like, yep, life is actually not fair. This is not fair.
One of the things that's really interesting about this too, and kind of to segue a little bit away from this before Kevin gets even more red than he is right now, is
I'm angry just thinking about it.
This was kind of a unique thing to kind of give I don't want to say a positive twist, but kind of like a pivot though that was like really interesting. Is like one of the things that had happened in this situation is it kind of shows like some of the infrastructure that we have, where it was like, I remember, getting the call on it. Alyssa called me first because I'm typically the one who responds to any negative reviews that we have to try to handle them. Try to go about it as best as I can, kind of apologize about the situation. I always offer my personal cell phone number, my name, and kind of say like, hey, like at least like I would love the opportunity to be better next time. Like I would love to know more about this situation, kind of like what happened. And this situation, they clearly had some kind of vendetta against us, and we weren't going to do anything. And it's like, maybe this is the tax of doing business. Like you're not going to appeal to everybody, but Alyssa texted me, and this is one of those things where we try to get ahead of it before Kevin sees it and turns too red. But it was like a really interesting thing because the situation ended up being, and I think we see this more and more when it comes to things, but it's like other people having to handle things. And it was like, we could not let Kevin handle this one, right? Because he, of course, is personally attacked in this situation. He's going to feel it. Somebody beat up his child on the playground today. And it's like, Kevin, that's a situation where it's like, you want to find this person. Like,
I'm about to go punt your kid.
Right.
I hope they're listening to this.
I doubt it.
You're right.
But it's one of those things where it was like, we had to have other people in this situation kind of like handle it. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it's one of those situations where it's like, how can, to Kevin, like, how can you not be emotional about this? You know what I mean? Like if somebody wrote a negative review about Pride Foods, like how could Sean not be emotional about this? Like there's no way. Like, again, somebody beat up your kid on the playground today, and it's like, you're not going to not freak out whenever that happens. Like you're going to. And so it was kind of an interesting dynamic though, in that situation of just being like, hey, like, nope, sorry, Kevin, like I'm going to take this one from you.
Very much appreciated that I did, because I know in that I was like, I'm not able to handle this.
Right.
I just can't.
And I also think you got to learn how to like pass those off. Yes, it's definitely also a potential opportunity depending on that customer to like make them an actual customer.
Right. Oh, 1,000%. And we have like, we've had situations where we got a 4-star review one time, but then like in the response that we wrote back, the guy ended up going back and actually changing it to 5 stars. And I think he even commented back on there saying something along the lines of like, I thought back to my experience at Triad and realized that there's nothing you guys could have done more to make this a better situation, and gave us 5 stars.
Well, I think that's because you handled it really well of going about it in a way of not being offended by giving us, a less than perfect review of, hey, what can we do better?
Right.
Like if what can we do to deserve 5 stars?
Yeah. In this situation on the 1-star, the 7 1-stars reviews, if we would have let Kevin do it, it would have been like, all right, person, what's your address? meet me at sundown, or meet me at high noon and bring a pistol. We're dueling.
Yeah. Not saying Sean's done that a few times, but
I've heard Sean talk about some situations.
I'm like, I'll get this taken care of.
Well, because like in this situation, like, obviously you care as much about Pride Foods as anybody. I care as much about Triad as anybody, but it's like you and I can come to this in a less emotional decision. We can come to it a little bit more logically, and that's not
because when it's yours, man, it's a lot different.
Again, it is
different.
If somebody beats up Kevin's child on the playground, I am upset about it, but I'm not burning the school down, right?
Yeah,
Kevin might be burning the school down in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, man. Customers are interesting nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, they're great, and like that's the thing. And I think this is part of it as well, that we talk about this a frequent amount. Is like sometimes it's just the tax of doing business. You know what I mean? It's like you can do everything that you absolutely in your power to be as good as possible, and that doesn't necessarily mean that like everyone's going to be thrilled. I mean, literally, like this was in this situation, it was legitimately pretty much like an unavoidable situation. Again, it was like one of our employees dealing with a very regular customer and talking to him like they would talk to anybody, but especially because it was a long-term regular, they had more of a personal relationship. And then it's like this person just did not take a liking to the fact that we had a personal relationship with a customer, and was just everything wrong that you could possibly stem from that.
And it's like we've taught all employees to have a personal relationship. That's why we've gotten to the point we are today.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. What do we do? Not do that now?
Yeah, well, right. And that's the thing. It's the tax of having those personal relationships, is that like somebody's going to take offense to it, I guess. And it's like, if the only way to cure that again is to take the coconut out of your pina colada. It's like it just ends up being not the same thing at that point. And it's
Right.
like, yeah, you know what? I guess some people just aren't going to like this, or like this person seemed like they had their own set of like problems within like their own life or whatever. They even kind of reference them, but it's like it's a tough situation to, you know, be able to avoid that. What do you do? I mean, what could we have possibly done in that situation to avoid that? That person, you know, seemed to be upset from them when they walked in.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
I really don't think we went over the interaction. And I don't think that there could have been anything else differently done.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Could have kissed their feet when they walked in.
yeah, probably would have taken
offense to it.
yeah,
It's like,
right.
please don't do that.
Yeah.
8 1-star reviews.
They kissed my feet when they came in, but chapped lips. Ugh.
Gross.
1 star.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was. Well, I kind of feel like well, what are we at? We at 2 hours right now?
I think we're quite a bit over.
Oh,
Really?
okay.
Oh,
Here
wow.
we go.
Got a
All right.
special one.
Yeah, we start talking, and it's especially with 3 people. I feel like there's like 3 different dynamics, but
Yeah.
you know, this is probably a good time to wrap things up. First and foremost, thank you, Alfonso, for coming in, you know, being our first guest. I know it's an honor for us to have you. We love you like crazy and all the things that you're doing. Make sure and check out Alfonso for all the things that he does, whether it's, you know, talking about his own life when it comes to his social media, Let's Work Apparel. You can always check that out on social media as well. He does a lot of marketing with that, and it's got an awesome website. Honestly, it's one of the best, like for small apparel businesses, it's one of the best websites like put together that I've seen in a while.
Thanks.
Maybe
I don't
it
know what
helps
I'm
that I
doing.
know all of the models because they're all friends of mine.
That's true.
Except for me, I've never been one.
Quick, really funny story. We had a customer in one point that I was taking, and they looked at Anthony and they were like, "I think that's a Let's Work model."
Shout out Anthony, you handsome stud.
That's funny. Dude, he's just my go-to guy.
Yeah, that's
Because it's
right.
like I got no one else free.
Yeah.
Except when he doesn't have a haircut. Then I'm like, yeah, you're not
No, yeah, he's got to be cleaned up.
Look
It looks like a scrub.
Yeah, looks like an elf.
But yeah, well,
Bummy.
that's even when he has a haircut. But yeah, again, man, just really appreciate you coming out. Like I said, check them out on social media. Check out Let's Work. Also check out Pride Foods. They make incredible products, whether it's their rice and grinds, their new butters, or the Pride Krispies that they make. They're all phenomenal products. So make sure and check those out. But yeah, guys, this has been episode 3? These are starting to stack up. Episode 3 of the Unsuccessful Entrepreneur Podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Peace.